Inside a classroom, a young guy suddenly wakes up with an expression on his face like he'd eaten shit, realizing in that moment that he'd went back in time, exactly 25 days before the college entrance exams. At the Xia Kingdom, specifically the Anqing No. 1 high school. Inside the 3rd grade of the 7th class, every student seems to be busy doing their assignment when suddenly, a young man stands up abruptly, screaming like a disfigured banshee. Horrified, he grabs his messed up hair and curses his rotten luck. Seriously, if he must be reincarnated, then at least let it be after he got into college. Why the hell does it has to be back in high school, and before the college entrance exams at that? I mean, who the hell is up there fucking with his plot armor? You see, since ancient times, humanity on planet Bluestar has been plagued by a catastrophe known as the Secret Realm invasion. These secret realms connect to another world, filled with terrifying monsters. Sometimes they take advantage of rifts in the realm to invade the human world. Although these terrifying monsters differ in strength, some are extremely powerful that they can destroy several nations and threaten the entirety of human civilization. To fight back, humanity developed a beast gene system, injecting beast genes to awaken a monster template and unlock genetic talents. Only such warriors can save human civilization. This caused warriors to enjoy much higher status and treatment than ordinary people. The entire Bluestar entered an era where martial strength was everything. Everything else was inferior. Only martial cultivation stands above all. As the system announced that the completion of the World Traversal Introduction, he was designated as the body host for Traversal. And the system also initiated the process of implanting memories. He grabs his head, still reeling with the reality of being a high school student. His colleagues laughed at his expense, claiming that a loser like him still wants to take the college entrance exam. One of the class beauties, Wang Tongtong, questioned why a loser like he hasn't dropped out of school and become a common worker until his worthless life ends. Annoyed, he just stared at her. It seems that every bullied protagonist story has a lead bitch in it. Anyway, judging from the situation, it's clearly obvious that the original owner of his body didn't have a good reputation in class. Primarily because his parents had an accident in his 2nd year, which made him lose focus on training and studying. His previously decent grades took a nosedive and became a drag on the class average. Meanwhile, Wang Tongtong was pissed off at the way he had been looking in her direction. She reminded the class loser that they are in a martial arts class. So, was he looking for a fight? Hearing this outrageous claim, he was dumbfounded. He was just thinking, not trying to pick a fight. What the hell is wrong with everyone? The original owner of this body didn't study properly, and now he's the unlucky bastard suffering the consequences for his actions. Again, who the fuck is up there that changed his plot armor and made him inherit this humiliating life? Just then, the class teacher informed the students to be ready. They were about to begin the injecting of the genetic modification serum. So in this upcoming event, they need to have some confidence in themselves. Their 3 years of effort in building their physique, their training, and their martial energy had led to this moment. But as for those who had never took this matter seriously before, his words trailed off as he pushed his old glasses and stares at he in annoyance. He, on the other hand, feigns a smile and thinks the situation has to be a joke. Seriously, it wasn't like he was the one slacking off but that poor guy who used to own this body. So why panic? And since he'd inherited this unfortunate guy's role, he will do everything right and clean his freaking mess. A while later, the scene shifted to the gene injection hall, where all the students undergoing the gene injection had gathered for the genetic injection conference. Their endless chatter heavily centered on what ability they will awaken. Some even suggested awakening Tier 3 Mountain Splitter or a Tier 4 Sea Bridge Dragon, or a laughable Tier 1 Butt Beast. Anyway, just then a massive machine opens up, and as cold air engulfed the surroundings, several test tubes were shown inside. These test tubes were the Gene Awakening Serum. They contain the primal genes of all magical beasts ever recorded by human warriors. And after injection, the students would absorb one at random and awaken. Usually, the stronger their physique, the stronger the gene they awaken. The crappy-looking class teacher continues, telling them not to be nervous. Once the serum was injected, they should calmly accept the surge of power. Now, those whose names are called should come up to receive their serum. The class teachers start calling names, and one by one, they injected themselves with the serum. After injecting themselves with the serum, apparently their teacher's advice was horseshit because they suddenly started screaming in pain or pleasure like they were having an orgasm or some shit. He saw this, knew exactly what he was in for, but immediately bit the bullet and injected himself with the serum, expecting to undergo a similar process like the rest. But nothing. With his eyes opened wide, he remained speechless as the class teacher approached him with a skeptical look on his face. You don't seem to have changed much, he questioned. Clueless as to why, he replied that he might have gotten a fake dose. Wang Tongtong mocked and laughed at him as she approached, stating the obvious that he seemed to have not awakened anything at all. She poked his irritated face and continued, commenting that a warrior who hadn't awakened was like a bird without wings. So, isn't he royally doomed? After all, this suits him just fine, right? Now he doesn't have to be a warrior. As Wang Tongtong continued her teasing session, yapping like a chatterbox, Yi found her to be extremely annoying. After all, she was also the one leading the bullying against the original owner of the body. Unexpectedly, this immense emotion suddenly burst out a strange feeling inside him. The system also detects this and informed him that he'd acquired an infinite monster template, displaying his current growth status. It had his name as the host, Grady as his overall physique, and a list of his martial skills, which was the 9th student basic chi technique, the blocking palm, and the iron body technique. Wang Tongtong saw this sudden action and questioned what the loser was doing. If he hadn't awakened, then he should stop pretending already. He even tried to warn her to stay away, but this blockhead bitch never listens. And now it was too late anyway. His body shakes violently, his eyes glowing with an immense power. Then unexpectedly, this immense power burst forth in the form of a raging beast so enormous and powerful that Wang Tongtong, who had been close to him, was trashed across the room like a freaking rag doll. However, she was not the only one, even though she suffered the full force of Yi's awakened power. All the students around had a similar experience. This unexpected display of power immediately garnered the attention of the top awakeners, Miss Lu and Li Xinyuan. The system notified Yi of awakening an A-rank template, the Mad Flame Daimola. The bloodline abilities are the Scorching Breath, the Molten Pulse, and the Spore Absorption. His advanced form is the Flame Lord, also Daimola, but it will unlock when template compatibility reaches 100%. Currently, he was at 3%. As Yi comes to terms with this information, he wondered if this power could be the golden finger the system had gave him. His impression on the students had suddenly undergone a complete 180 the moment they realized the loser of the class might have awakened something monstrous. His aura managed to blow almost everyone away, especially Wang Tongtong, who had awakened a second-tier magic beast, the Flaming Lizard. Wang Tongtong was knocked out cold, drooling all over like an infant. He apologized to everyone, stating that he'd made quite a scene awakening. Well, no shit. Nonetheless, he did warn everyone to step back, but no one listened. Anyway, who would have thought the loser of the class would make most of his classmates bow and acknowledge his monstrous potential? They were practically kissing the floor at this moment. But just then, the PA system announced that all the awakened third-year students must now proceed to the testing building to examine what kind of magical beast gene they have awakened and to test their martial arts level. At the Gene Breakthrough Detection Device, which tests the subject's magical beast gene and martial level, all the third-year students gathered to test their magical beast gene and martial level. As the holographic screen displayed every awakened information the moment they're examined, the current student on display was Li Xinyuan. He awakened a third-tier magical beast bloodline, the Swift Spine Bug. Some students commented on his lucky break. After all, he was just an average student in their class before awakening. But now, he was probably the #1 student with a strong bloodline. Strong bloodlines are really unfair. Another student, Chu Zhou, lived up to his title of being the top student of the grade. Not only was he a level 9 martial apprentice, but he even awakened the top-tier bloodline among tier 3 bloodlines, the Ice Demon Dragon. It seems this time around, the champion of Anqing City will be him. Next was Miss Lu, who was also a level 9 martial apprentice, and had awakened a stage 4 rare bloodline, the Nether Sparrow. A well-deserved ability for the top scorer of the province. If a stage 4 bloodline beast appeared in its true form, then it could destroy most of a city. Warriors would be as weak as ants before these beasts, and only grandmasters can resist them. In that moment, he noticed something peculiar. Everyone's awakened beast templates were all classified as stage 3 or stage 4. So why was his classified as A class? Just then, it was his turn to be examined, but the moment he turned towards the test tube chamber, the crowd of students were staring at him with dreamy eyes, believing he was going to be someone important one day. The girls even wanted to have his children right then and there. He knew this world really revolved around martial power, but seeing it firsthand, and directed at him, he walked into the test tube chamber with an aura of superiority and confidence. The crowd cheered him on like crazed fans. With such an insane aura after awakening, his level must be the highest with probably a huge breakthrough. Li Xinyuan just watched with a serious expression, finally noticing Yi's name. He acknowledged him to be someone to look forward to. Unexpectedly, what happened after was absolutely mind-boggling. Because Yi's data only showed basic information, a stage 3 with an unknown beast bloodline. Seeing this, A brief silence ensues as everyone tried to make sense of what they were witnessing, their surprise and shock evident. But the moment apprehension sank in, the guys laughed at Ihi like the mad joker, while the girls cringe in disgust and embarrassment for ever entertaining the idea of being with such a person. Meanwhile, Ihi calmly walked out of the test tube chamber, expecting this result. Inwardly, he knew. His martial power and beast bloodline are unique and probably immeasurable. His system template also wasn't detected, but it triggered the prompt for the infinite monster template. His template rank might be different from the rest, but this also means as long as he meets the conditions, he can draw monster templates infinitely. With this, Ihi aims to become the king of monsters. So, later that day, the awakening ceremony ended and classes was over, but inside the class teacher's office, the old guy wondered why he suddenly wants a break to study and come back for the college entrance exam. Did he honestly think he would believe that a student such as him will actually study at home? He tells him he really wants to improve. He knows he has fallen too far behind, so he has to go through special training now. If he follows everyone else's pace, then there's no hope for him. Just then, his class teacher tells him he knows this. If he wants to become a warrior, the only way is to go to college. Beijing University was something that was not easy to get into, so he should be preparing a lot. He knows he had awakened his bloodline, but his foundation was too weak. So there was no way he will pass the entrance exams with this strategy. But there was no rush. He should prepare to repeat the year and try again next year if he fails. However, he ignores this. He states that he was desperate to learn. He might not understand, especially since he awakened a powerful bloodline. As long as he can train hard, he will achieve everything he wants. And to tell the truth, he asks his class teacher to look into his eyes. His eyes would not lie to him. Seeing those eyes, the class teacher deems them to be full of sincerity, so he reluctantly agreed. But if he fails, he will be coming back to study under him to repeat the year for next year. A while later, Ihi arrives at the Anqing Warrior Center. Upon entering the center, Ihi, already aware that his parents' house was mortgaged for about 600,000 yen, and with the compensation for their accident over 1 million, he now has enough money to be heading to the main city. But to improve his power now, he has two options. One is to level up as a warrior, but the other way is to increase the contract rate with Tamura's model. And according to the data of the Infinite Monster template, each template starts with only 1 point of compatibility. But Tamura clearly has 3 compatibility points. What Ihi doesn't understand was where did the last 2 points come from? And for that, there was only one answer. The Tamura model absorbed the power of the genetic awakening serum and gained 2 accounting points. This proves that the serum basically related to the genes in this world may be improving its model abilities. Instead of training to death as a warrior, he could be spending money to increase his compatibility. This strategy, if he's being honest, will be much better and suits him perfectly. Anyway, he needed to hurry up and buy some genetic enhancement serum. However, the moment Ihi passes by the identification card checkpoint and entered the building, he experienced the biggest shock of his life. His eyes widened in surprise. In front of him were warriors with various awakened bloodlines, the overwhelming presence of their genes clearly evident. But what was surprising was that everyone in there had already awakened their lineage. After awakening the Mad Flame Tamura, Ihi obtained a unique sensory ability, the magnetic field of life. Since Tamura may be sensing vital signs emitted by creatures through the release of his vital magnetic field, he may be clearly feeling the chi and blood of the warriors burning them, as if it were a furnace inside them. And along with the roars of their beast bloodlines as warriors or monsters, he can no longer suppress the fighting desire within him. After all, the Mad Tamura is the king of beasts in their world, destined to conquer all life on the planet. But unfortunately, he was just a rookie at the moment, so he can only suppress Tamura's fighting bloodline for now. When he gets stronger, he will show the whole world the meaning of being the king of beasts. Suddenly, someone grabbed him by the shoulder from behind and called out to him. This person turns out to be a baddie who advised Ihi to not peek at people so casually like he intends to challenge them. He was a bit startled upon realizing this, so he apologized. She replied that it was fine. After all, it seems Ihi probably just awakened his monster gene, so not being able to control his powers was normal. But what brings him to the warrior's center? She questioned. He calmly replies that he was there to buy genetic medicine. But the place was huge and he can't seem to find his way. Could you help me out? Sure, but why are you already using genetic medicine at this stage? He asked if there was something wrong with that. Not really. She smiled and continued. It's just that gene medicine isn't cheap and can easily cause resistance, making it less effective over time. If you want to maximize the effect, warriors usually wait until their bloodline reaches the bottleneck before using it. He then asked how much one gene potion cost. At Ihi's current stage, he can only use the solid-type beginner potion, and it costs around 400,000 yen. This price tag scared the young king of beasts shitless. It was way too expensive for a broke guy such as himself. Even if he used all his savings, he couldn't afford 5. But he still needed to buy it, so he wanted to know if the lady knew anyone who could get him the potion at a discount. The lady, who happens to be a good person, ends up giving Ihi a business card. It was a recommendation from a veteran warrior so he could get a really good discount if everything goes his way. He thanked her and took his leave. If fate allows it, they would likely meet again. After clearing out his account, he heads to a warrior's weapon shop. And after his insane spending, it was already nightfall when he got home. Inside his apartment, Ihi began his upgrade. He took those injections and was under immense pain. He could feel his bones shuddering and blood boiling as his compatibility increases from 3% to 4%, then to 7%. His overall stats also increased from 8 to 10, then from 10 to 15, which was the armed rank 7. When he was done, he crouched on the floor, completely exhausted. So this is what leveling up feels like, he stated breathlessly. However, with each shot of gene potion, Ihi's physique improved. By the final one, it only increased a little. It seems that as his body strengthens, further base mutations become harder and harder to trigger. Nonetheless, his current development was not bad at all. In just a few minutes, he gained what others work 3 years for. And this was just using his base physical stats. If he activates the Daimola's bloodline power, then maybe he really does have a shot at being the top scorer in the exam. This is just too incredible. If cheat mode can't beat the geniuses, then this cheat is way too weak. Next, it seems he has to depart to the secret realm. For context, the secret realm rifts are ranked from S-class to E-class. The higher the ranks, the stronger the beasts inside. Beasts in S-class realms are completely uncontrollable by humans. If they ever invade the real world, it would be an apocalyptic disaster. Anyhow, as the scene shifted to an E-level secret realm at a third-rate location in Anqing, he realizes that there are much fewer people there than he expected. Maybe it was because the secret realm had been developed for too long. After all, it was an old secret realm, and any treasures it had already been plundered. Only a few weak beasts were left behind for the rookie warriors to train with. Knowing all this, Ihi goes to the checkpoint. He asked the lady there about his book ticket for the E-class secret realm. The lady didn't look away from whatever she was watching on her television, and simply handed Ihi a death waiver and his ticket. Without hesitation, Ihi signs the waiver and heads for the secret realm's rift. As he got close, his excitement grew stronger and stronger. In his eyes, this was the beginning of his rise to become the king of beasts. He rushed forward with joy, leaps in the air, and plunged headfirst inside. Inside, he dramatically did a superhero landing simply because why not? In this dimension, he clearly saw that the dungeon had 3 distinct stars: the Kanglan star, the Anwei star, and the Taijin star. Even though Ihi had seen the appearance of a secret realm in textbooks, it's a whole different ball game to witness it in person. To be exact, it was just simply magnificent. Unexpectedly, as Ihi was admiring the view, a mutant rabbit silently crept up behind him. It was a first-rank beast, the Bladefang rabbit. The moment it got close, it launched a fierce attack from behind. However, he had long noticed the sneaky bastard's presence, and swiftly caught the poor guy in midair by the ears. He gave a creepy smile, amused that this unfortunate beast thought he couldn't sense him. He activated his life magnetic field ability and casually crushed the poor beast's head like it was nothing. So with that kill, he ends up obtaining the core of a Bladefang rabbit. He realizes that its core was of average quality, worth around a few thousand yen. If he earns 1,000 yen within the span of mere minutes after entering this dungeon, then he's pretty efficient. Life is truly boundless for the strong. You see, ordinary people would kill themselves to work all month just to earn 3 or 4 times that amount. Anyway, collecting too many first-rank beast cores is pointless. It would be better to find at least a second-rank beasts. But who would have guessed that just as he thought of this, a second-ranked beast, the demon corpse bug, would present itself just like that? Was this beast begging to be killed, or what? Nonetheless, he would grant this bug its wish. So, inside the E-level secret realm, he unsheathed his short sword and skillfully slashed the lower abdomen of the beast. He had read the monster's encyclopedia, so he knew that comparing the monster's steel-like shell on its back to the soft armor on the abdomen, it was easier to break through the defenses of the corpse demon bug. The beast coiled its worm-like body in a circular form and spun rapidly towards Ihi. Seeing this terrifying attack, he plunged his sword on the ground and activated the technique, Hyper Beam. With an overwhelming aura, he shot the beam like a fire cannon, hitting the beast squarely on the abdomen. However, this wasn't enough to kill it, and in retaliation, it also shot out several spinning discs from its mouth. He was surprised with the attack. Managing to use its mandibles to fire projectiles was something unexpected and also meant the monster was going all out. So, with agile and nimble movements, he skillfully dodged the attack. But his outfit wasn't so lucky. He screamed like a suffocating Bart, questioning the beast if it knows how expensive the outfit was. Anyway, with his current level as a martial artist, he can't do anything to this bug. Without powerful martial techniques as support, even with deep Dantian energy and strong blood vitality, he can barely exert 50% of his strength. And that's mainly because the original owner of the body was such an academic failure. Nonetheless, he has no choice but to cheat. Done with this fight, he activated his Mad Demola, the Emperor Demon's bloodline, empowering his physique from 15 to 21. His arms managed to transform into a beast form, with lethal claws and impregnable skin. As the demon corpse bug launched forward with its wide-open mouth with razor-sharp teeth, he leaped into its mouth. And the moment he was swallowed whole, he starts tearing the beast from the inside. The monster bellowed excessively until he pierced its skin and came out from its lower abdomen. It died immediately after. Now that his overall physique had skyrocketed to level 21, he completely crushed a second-rank corpse demon bug effortlessly. However, after deactivating his transformation, he must still be expelling the excess heat from his body. This will make him feel like a jet engine. On the ground, the short sword he just bought was corroded by the corpse demon bug's venom. A 250,000 yen weapon couldn't even handle a tier 2 monster. What a scam. The quality control was terrible and deserve a bad review. Anyway, was the energy consumption from his first monster hunt too high because he was so freaking hungry? And to make this matter even worse, he didn't bring any food. His stomach growls the moment he smelled something fragrant. He even began to drool too. Staring at the green magic core of the corpse demon bug, he seems to find the aroma tempting. Oh, to hell with it. He opened his mouth wide and swallowed the huge green core in one massive gulp. Within him, the green core dissolves and immediately increased his compatibility from 7 to 7.3%. He was shocked with this increase. He spent hundreds of thousands on a genetic potion and it only increased his compatibility by 1%. However, this single green magic core increased his compatibility by 0.3%. 3 or 4 of these cores are worth the whole potion. Also, a few white magic cores from the Blade Tooth Rabbit should at least increase compatibility by 1%. Cursing, he began to tear up in regret. He had wasted his money on pay-to-win and lost miserably. Whatever, he would turn his frustration into motivation. Because tonight, he will hunt to his heart's content. He placed 2 fingers on his forehead and activated his magnetic life field. This creates a magnetic pulse which detects everything around him within a wide range. After a few hours, it was afternoon the next day, his compatibility had increased to 9. And his overall physique had also increased to 15.8. After reaching 9% compatibility, consuming more white magic cores didn't increase the compatibility anymore. So he just had to sell them for money instead. He had a total of 20 white magic core and 4 green magic core. When the receptionist at the checkpoint saw the number of magic stones presented in front of her, she asks if he was seriously a mere high school student. To be able to collect this many magic cores was just mind-boggling. According to government's regulations, martial artists must submit 1/10 of their loot. For 1 green magic core, he needs to hand in 5 white stones. All in all, he racked up 200,000 Xia Kingdom credits. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking and with only 9 days left until the college entrance exams, the scene shifts to a D-class secret realm. Near the entrance, a team of 6 warriors discuss their mission once they head out. The driver asked the captain if they would be able to complete the Blood Jade Flower bounty mission this time around. The captain of the team, Lin He, a tier 2 martial artist, simply stated that during their last exploration, they already found the general location of the Blood Jade Flower. However, since their fellow team member, Old Chin, was injured by a monster, he won't be able to join them in the secret realm this time around. Hearing this, the young lady among them questioned if the mission was going to be a 5-people job. The guy beside her seconded her question and added that the rules state that at least 6 people were requested to enter a D-class secret realm. So what were they going to do? Captain Lin pointed behind him and told them not to worry. He contacted an agency to introduce them to a new martial artist. Of course, this new person was none other than He. He picks his nose and greets the team, introducing himself as Dadsla, a level 9 martial disciple. Since he was still a student and was not qualified to enter a D-class secret realm, he had to use an illegal agency to create a fake identity to join a team. It cost him 100,000 credits. What a fucking rip-off. The captain then turns towards He and questioned that his Dadsla name feels a bit off. He gave a disdainful look and replied that he had no choice. If he used his original name, then it would violate the copyrights. Captain Lin dropped the matter, stating that Godzilla was just a codename anyway. At Ihi's level 9 martial disciple strength, he really doesn't qualify for a Class D secret realm. So, their team will let him observe and learn, but he shouldn't hold them back. Ihi agreed. He had no problem with this arrangement. After all, clarifying responsibilities before a mission was actually pretty reliable. Far better than screwing him over during the mission. They soon took off and drove into the portal. According to the tracker, the bloody jade flower was in an oasis a little further ahead. It was guarded by a Tier 2 monster with general-level bloodline. He observed his surroundings and noticed something. Just recently, he was at a rainforest, now a desert. It seems that the secret realms were not connected to just one world. In that moment, the driver noticed the horde of earth demon rats from his rearview mirror. He notified the captain, adding that they seemed to have locked on their scent. The guy in the back seat named Hood was ordered by the captain to take care of them. With a murderous glee in his eyes, he replied that he understood. He took out a couple daggers, then casually threw them at the horde of earth demon rats. The moment the daggers pierced the earth demon rats, they exploded. The team casually proceeds forward without any further interference. Mr. Hood nonchalantly stared ahead, inwardly feeling full of himself. He, on the other hand, just stared at the guy. Mr. Hood infused martial energy into his throwing dart, which exploded like a bomb upon impact. Seems this guy is ruthless. Shortly after, the group arrived at their destination. They got out of the car and walked the remaining distance on foot. He, like a true rookie, casually asked why they weren't driving. There was still some distance to the oasis. Captain Lin replied that the monsters in the oasis were highly sensitive, so the sound of an off-road engine would definitely alert them. Anyway, to distribute tasks while walking, Captain Lin tells Xiao Xia to throw the stun grenade later to lure the beast out. Xiao Wu and Hood would set up the traps. Old Lu would provide suppressive fire, and Lin He would handle the front line. Oh, and for Godzilla, he would stay still and watch. Fine by me, he answered, already bored. So, just like that, the strategy was put in play. The stun grenade contains high-level monster pheromones, making some beasts think their territory was being invaded. This will obviously attract them. Almost immediately, a Tier 2 Earth Dragon appears, roaring fiercely like a crazed animal. Seeing this, Captain Lin reminded Ihi to be careful because the monster was heading their way. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a silhouette of a mysterious guy appears at the site where Mr. Hood eliminated the horde of earth demon rats. He casually picked a dagger up and licked the blade with a sadistic glee. Back at the oasis, Captain Lin imbued his sword with martial energy and skillfully decapitated the earth dragon. The moment he landed, Xiao Xia and Xiao Wu rushed to his side, questioning if he was okay. Captain Lin sheathed his sword and replied that he was okay. They should proceed forward as planned. But in that very moment, a massive paw suddenly loomed dangerously over its target, Captain Lin. His teammates warned him to watch out, but it was too late. The dying creature planned on taking the captain along with it. Unexpectedly, he exerted a considerable effort in his legs and leaped high in the air. In the air, he spared no effort, unleashing a terrifying hyper beam at the beast. With his current level and strength, the poor creature stood no chance. If it wasn't dead before, it was super dead now. Everyone was stunned with Ihi's sudden display of martial prowess. After all, he was just a mere martial novice, yet he had the power to shake a Tier 2 beast. Seriously, what an incredible punch. Xiao Xia, Xiao Wu, and even the captain began to fawn over him. He just casually basked in all the attention and simply acted like it wasn't a big deal. Captain Lin then thanked him for saving him. With the death of the Earth Dragon, Old Lu pulled out its soul essence and called out to the captain to take a look. Everyone's attention shifted to the great harvest they've gotten, which, to be honest, looks like a large fruit. Xiao Wu was surprised that the soul essence was worth that much. Of course, the captain stated and added that it could also greatly improve a warrior's template. It was a close call this time around, but he believes they would be able to defeat the dragon and find the blood jade flower. But in a surprising and unexpected turn of events, his lower abdomen was suddenly pierced from behind by a sharp dagger. The shady backstabbing weasel was none other than Mr. Hood. He told the captain that there was no point in thinking of such things now, he was going to die, and soon his entire team will follow. The group was shocked with this betrayal and questioned Mr. Hood what he was doing. Mr. Hood made a massive leap backward the moment the captain swung his fist behind him. He landed beside Huapeng, the bulky guy from earlier. Huapeng simply replied the group that Mr. Hood was doing what he was always meant to do, which was to strike it rich. The team was furious with the sudden appearance of Huapeng, so he questioned Xiao Wu if they know Huapeng personally. Xiao Wu informed Yi that Huapeng robs martial artists of their loot they find in the dungeons. And recently, he had set his eyes on them. Old Lu helps Captain Lin, but was surprised to know that the blade Hood used was poisoned. That damn traitor. But how did Huapeng know about the location of the oasis? Even his teammates only learned the blood jade flower's location after entering the dungeon. Just then, Yi remembered Mr. Hood's explosive daggers. Apparently, Mr. Hood not only imbued them with martial energy but intel on the oasis location as well. Mr. Hood gave a menacing smile and told Yi that he was pretty smart. With the college entrance exams right at the corner, he should have stayed in school instead of walking hand in hand with death. He agrees with him about the college entrance exams. After all, he's got the top scorer's title waiting for him. But about walking hand in hand with death, that's for him to decide. Mr. Hood throws a dagger, claiming he was arrogant and didn't know what was good for him. He caught the dagger in between his two fingers and counters that a bald freak like him having the balls to bark in front of him. Now that's true arrogance. Was he courting death so badly that he had lost his mind? Anyway, the situation was so noisy, so it was time to pick up the trash. And by trash, he means those two. Huapeng just grinned with glee. He finds Yi to be quite interesting. He then orders Mr. Hood to take care of Yi. To be exact, he wants his head. At that command, Mr. Hood grabs numerous daggers and throws them toward Yi within a fraction of a second. Knowing full well of the explosive nature of the daggers, he roared, and the mere shockwave of the roar shattered the explosive daggers. The next moment, Mr. Hood, known as Huda, disappeared from Yi's line of sight and appeared directly above him. The team warned Yi to be careful the moment Huda's martial technique, the mountain splitter, was locked on him. He placed 2 fingers on his forehead, stating that it was the perfect chance to test out his new skill. He shot Huda with a hyper beam that shattered his defenses completely and pierced him in the chest. The group was again surprised to see how effortlessly Yi managed to defeat Huda with just a single move. Was he really a martial novice? He blows the smoke from his finger as Huda's lifeless body falls to the ground with a dull thud. Of course, Huapeng was annoyed and surprised with Yi's gene technique, so he questioned which family he was from. Family? He repeats with a dark look. Well, if you must know, I'm from the Damonra clan. Why? Are you planning to beg for mercy? Brat, even with a gene technique, you can't possibly close this massive martial gap. With a massive bear-like roar, Huapeng activated his Tyrant Terror Black Bear bloodline, his already massive size growing 1,000 times over. As his imposing figure looms over Yi, he activated his Peak Shaker martial technique. He bend lower, and with his hyper beam, aims at Huapeng's legs. The mountain beast of a man roared in pain the moment he was shot at. The moment he closed his hands into one massive fist and slams down on Yi, he was already above him in the air. Huapeng immediately leaps in the air as Yi comments about how second-tier martial artists are really something else. His atomic beam couldn't even penetrate or melt Huapeng's ankle bone. The moment Huapeng leaped in the air, his massive hands appeared on opposite sides of Yi, intending to literally clap him into meat paste. The clap created a terrifying shockwave the moment they connected. But obviously, he dodged and suddenly appeared behind Huapeng, stating that it was his turn. Huapeng's eyes widened the moment Yi activated another technique, the core-fused mountain-crushing fist. His hands grew in size and was imbued with martial energy. With this, numerous fists rained down on Huapeng like a tsunami. Huapeng was done for and could not even dodge a single blow. As the dust settles, he, with steaming fists, stood tall over Huapeng's body. The idiot's body was raided with countless blows. Not even his face was spared. The group stared at the scene with wide eyes, speechless at the sight. As Huapeng's disfigured face came to view, he painfully states that Yi's gene technique emits toxic gas. It was so despicable. A wicked martial artist like him will definitely be punished. He curses Yi with this fate. With an overwhelming aura, he glared at the idiot and presented him with another core-fused mountain-crushing fist. With people cursing him left, right, sideways, and center, their curses will just keep piling up and Huapeng's own will only have to wait in line. So, who the hell was he supposed to be again? The scene shifted and just like that, 9 days had passed, and the college entrance exams was about to begin in full swing. The event was taking place at the Central Sports Stadium of An City. The host of the event welcomed everyone, mainly the students. The year's General Higher Martial Arts School enrollment was about to begin, so he would like to wish everyone good luck in the competition. The college entrance exams adopts a competition system. Candidates will compete in pairs, and the winners will advance to the next round. The exams will last for 3 days with the first 2 mainly centered on additions. The students who advances will take the exams on the 3rd day. Each student will fight 3 matches in the additions, and the students who get promoted successfully will compete all the way until the top scorer of this year's college entrance examination is selected. To each student, the prospects you carry on your back are the future of humanity. So please, show your true potential during this examination for both yourself and humanity. So with that, the host officially announced the beginning of the event. In Arena 1, it was a fight between two male candidates. In Arena 4, the fight was between a male and a female fighter. But as the scene pans to Arena 6, the female candidate was missing an opponent. Apparently, the opposing candidate hadn't arrived yet. The host took a look at the list of contestants and found out that Arena 6 was a duel between Wang Tongtong and Yi He, both from Ant City No. 1 Middle School. But only Wang Tongtong was in the arena. According to the rules, if Yi He still doesn't show up after the competition begins, he will be considered as a forfeit. In the arena, Wang Tongtong stood there, smug and satisfied. She knew the gene conference made her lose face, a shame she'll carry for life. She was planning to humiliate Yi He with her flaming lizard, but that pathetic fool was hiding and didn't even have the balls to show up. How disappointing, the audience murmured. How pathetic. He's too scared to even show up for the college entrance exams? He's probably hiding at home, trembling. Someone like him shouldn't even be in high school. He should just go sweep the streets. At that moment, the referee blew his whistle and announced that the time was up. And City's first high school, Yi He. But before he could finish speaking, the crowd suddenly felt a powerful presence approaching from above. They all looked up and were shocked to see something heading towards Arena 6 like a meteor. Wait, is that a person? What kind of immense power could allow someone to fly like that? Just as the audience below were debating, the person suddenly landed in the arena, and the immense force caused the entire platform to shake. When the dust cleared, Wang Tongtong was still confused. But in the next moment, a foot was seconds away from warming her face. Wang Tongtong could not dodge and was immediately kicked off the arena. He watched the annoying bitch knocked out cold for the second time and muttered about his close timing. He almost had to wait and come back next year. With Wang Tongtong out of the arena, unconscious, the host loudly announced Yi He as the winner. Hearing this, Yi He scoffed at how easy it was to defeat his previous bully. The audience was amazed at what they had just witnessed, and immediately began shouting and praising Yi He for his martial prowess. One kick and his opponent was done. Also, the way he entered the arena was so cool. Is this what they call a kick from the heavens? At that moment, the system displayed that Yi He's total physique was at 226, and his compatibility was 20%. This sick fucker couldn't help but feel smug. This was all thanks to Captain Lin, who gave him the blood jade fruit. Although it took some time to improve his physique, he can relax and enjoy what's about to happen. After defeating Wang Tongtong, Yi He continued his winning streak. First, it was against a guy from Ant City's No. 4 Middle School, Long Tao. Then against another from the same middle school. 3 matches, 3 wins. And each one ended with a single kick with no hesitation. The audience went wild, shouting like crazed fans, and even named Yi He as the one-kick Superman. As expected, the host announced Yi He from Ant City's first high school as the winner of 3 matches in a row with just 1 strike. And with that, he had advanced to the 3rd round. In the stands, a crowd gathered around Yi He, asking for his contact information. Some even recommended their own schools, and reporters asked him about his dream university. Upon hearing these questions, Yi He's eyes flashed with a proud yet creepy smile. He confidently replied that he was aiming for Huadu University. Hearing this, the crowd around him suddenly dispersed, deeming him to be too arrogant. He sighed helplessly. They didn't believe in him, and he couldn't blame them. Huadu University was the best martial arts college in Xia Kingdom, one of the top 5 in the world, a holy land for all warriors. Cities like Ant City only allow the top students to enter that sacred place. But that's fine. Martial artists are judged by their strength. He couldn't wait to see the look on their faces once he wins first place. At that moment, the examiners noticed Yi He's performance and approached him, asking for a retest of his martial level. After a quick scan, the examiner was shocked. He exclaimed that half a month ago, Yi He was just a level 3 martial disciple, but now he had reached level 9. Upon further investigation, they found out that Yi He had frequently visited E-Tier's secret realms after leaving school. So they asked him why he ventured into such dangerous places right before the college entrance exams. He casually explained that it was to find himself. His father left him a message before he passed away. If Yi He wants to surpass humanity, then he has to stop being afraid of death and become courageous and strong. So he had been entering secret realms, battling and breaking through his genetic locks. The examiners froze when he heard the mentioning of breaking through genetic locks. He needed to report this right away. As the examiners rushed off, he couldn't help but feel like he had somehow become a subject of intense scrutiny. Inside the waiting room, Ihi took out his phone and was surprised at the amount of live streams being conducted on the streets as interviews for parents and friends of the examinees. Sadly, there was no one who came to cheer for him personally. He was just an orphan that no one cared about. Unbeknownst to him, his class teacher was fiercely cheering for him in the comfort of his home. He stepped onto the arena once again, and this time around, his opponent was Luo Xian from the city's third high. He was a martial disciple level 8 with the bloodline of a rare second-tier monster, and both of his parents were warriors. He looked at Luo Xian with boredom and motioned for him to make the first move. Luo Xian, feeling belittled, couldn't help but feel some anger rising within him. He immediately activated his bloodline and used his martial skill, Dashing Lightning Claw, to accelerate to his top speed. His heart beat like a supercar engine, and as he ran, his body accelerated again and again. His sharp claws aimed at Ihi's throat. Luo Xian's martial skill cut through the air like a bolt of lightning, creating sparks with a sonic boom. His attack could even kill a martial disciple of the 9th level if he made contact. However, he never expected that as his arm came near his opponent's throat, he would effortlessly grab it. He casually stated that Luo Xian's momentum was quite good, but he was far from the collision force of Huapeng. Luo Xian, shocked, scared and sweating bullets, begged for mercy. Without hesitation, Ihi delivered a palm strike to Luo Xian's head, and the immense force knocked Luo Xian out cold right on the spot. He then arrogantly asked for a decent opponent. Or are there really no such contestants? The host quickly announced another victory with one strike, and this time, Ihi defeated the seated player Luo Xian. Dozens of high-speed cameras focused on Ihi, capturing shots from every angle, and the live broadcast was buzzing. Viewers couldn't stop talking, some in awe, commenting that although Luo Xian looked so fierce, he was defeated in the blink of an eye. Ihi's strength was on a whole different level compared to the other candidates. In this martial arts-driven era, Ihi's overwhelming display of power stirred the passion of everyone watching. Like seriously, the women even wanted to have his babies. Su Zhou watched as Luo Xian was carried off the stage by medics, his eyes filled with fierce determination. As expected, he smiled. This guy was the one I've been rooting for. When we meet in the finals, I'll definitely defeat you with an overwhelming power. At the head of the Huadu University admissions office, having watched Ihi's impressive performance through the live broadcast, demanded to have all of his information within half an hour. Just after he finished his match, the second group of the qualifiers was already in full swing. This match was even more heated than his, as both competitors were top-tier beauties with larger followings, making it even more of a spectacle. One of them was Kai Shaoling from N-City's second high, a petite girl with an incredibly sexy figure. She flipped her long golden pigtails, giving Lu Qingzhu a provocative look, and remarked that she hated the robotic expression of Lu's family's young lady. Lu Qingzhu didn't respond. Instead, she simply bowed slightly and greeted her, her face expressionless, as if she didn't take Kai Shaoling's challenge seriously at all. The referee blew the whistle, signaling the start of the match, with the aura of a martial disciple level 9. Kai Shaoling instantly appeared in front of Lu Qingzhu, sweeping a kick towards Lu Qingzhu's neck, threatening to slam her to the ground. Lu Qingzhu still made no move, lightly waving her palms, causing the air around her to thicken, becoming as viscous as a swamp under the influence of her martial technique. When Kai Shaoling's kick met the air in front of Lu Qingzhu, she felt as though her leg, which could tear through military-grade steel, had instead sunk into soft cotton. Under the diminishing effects, even the high-speed cameras could only capture Kai Shaoling's white leg moving in slow motion, visibly decelerating. Kai Shaoling, furious at Lu Qingzhu's immovable expression, intensified her attack. She cloaked her body in martial energy, minimizing air resistance, and blurred her form into a shadow as she circled Lu Qingzhu, waiting for the right moment to strike a palm to Lu Qingzhu's side. But as her palm neared Lu Qingzhu's waist by just 3 inches, it suddenly couldn't get any closer. Realizing she had fallen into a trap, Kai Shaoling tried to retract her hand, but the air in front of her exploded with unimaginable suction, preventing her from pulling back. At that moment, Lu Qingzhu made her first move, extending her slender fingers, which now shimmered with a jade-like light. The warriors watching the livestream had their eyes widen as they recognized the move, the Hunyuan jade finger from the Xianhuang martial technique. To see a student about to take the high school entrance exams mastering the Xianhuang technique was astonishing. Such martial talent didn't need to be proven through exams. This alone could guarantee a direct admission to Huadu University. Standing close to Lu Qingzhu, Kai Shaoling could feel the terrifying energy from the jade finger, realizing that if she didn't pull out her trump card now, it would be her last chance. Without hesitation, she activated her bloodline, Shadow Tiger King. A massive shockwave exploded from her body, shattering the air around her. Lu Qingzhu, however, didn't choose to withstand the blow. She lightly tapped the ground with her foot, her body swiftly sliding a dozen meters to create some distance. The examiners in the stands held their breath, eyes fixed on Kai Shaoling, amazed. A king-level bloodline is hard to control, and the Shadow Tiger King is known for its brutal power. This girl's future is boundless. The awakening of the Shadow Tiger King's bloodline placed a heavy burden on Kai Shaoling's body. She exhaled hot air and struggled to speak to Lu Qingzhu, challenging her to display the Phantom Crow bloodline. Lu Qingzhu, ever the woman of few words, spoke her first line since the battle began. "This is enough." Kai Shaoling, completely enraged, shouted, "Do you think anyone below a warrior can challenge me?" Her body moved like a vicious tiger, her fierce blood energy coiling into a torrent behind her, her palms slashing through the air toward Lu Qingzhu. Facing the brutal strike, Lu Qingzhu softened the blow with grace, her hands moving like she was playing a piano, the invisible threads of her technique gradually reducing Kai Shaoling's force until it disappeared entirely. Kai Shaoling's attack failed, and she immediately drew on her immense blood energy, dispelling the invisible threads around Lu Qingzhu. With her small body in midair, she kicked again. Seeing this, Lu Qingzhu activated the Xianhuang technique once more, the Hunyuan Jade Finger. The jade-colored tip of her finger collided with Kai Shaoling's fierce kick, and the two powerful techniques clashed, shattering the specially made arena beneath their feet. The arena erupted in a cloud of dust. Tens of thousands of spectators watched with bated breath, waiting for the final victor. As the dust cleared, Kai Shaoling was the first to appear. She was covered in dirt, stumbling a few steps before collapsing to the ground from exhaustion. Lu Qingzhu, however, stood like an ethereal fairy, her hair slightly disheveled but otherwise pristine and composed. With just his martial skills, he completely dominated Kai Shaoling, who also had a martial disciple level 9 and a king level bloodline. Lu Qingzhu's powerful display instantly exploded the live broadcast room. Viewers were amazed by Lu Qingzhu's strength. Some even claimed she was the top scorer from its city, while others leaked that Lu Qingzhu had awakened the 4th-tier bloodline of the Phantom Crow, a talent so rare that most warriors would be unable to defeat her. After Lu Qingzhu's battle, the rest of the matches, though still exciting, seemed dull in comparison. After several rounds of elimination, the final 8 were decided. From N-City First High, it was Yi He, Lu Qingzhu, and Chu Zhou, 2 from N-City Second High, and 3 from N-City Qingfeng Private High. The finals of the top 8 were about to begin, and Yi He stepped up first to draw lots. He drew in Lot A, and as a tall, muscular giant glanced at him, he revealed his own draw, which was also from Lot A. It seems like we're set to face off. His name was Shen Guan from Qingfeng Private High. He simply nodded and introduced himself. Shen Guan informed Yi He that they were the second match, so they should watch the first match together. He looked simple and straightforward, with hands as big as fans, pointing toward the big screen above the arena. The first match was Luo Shi from Qingfeng Private High versus Chu Zhou from N-City First High. Shen Guan casually started chatting with Yi He, stating that Luo was incredibly talented, and a repeat student who was specifically aiming for Huadi University this year. He had great mastery over his bloodline awakening, but still stood no chance against Chu Zhou. Chu Zhou, he's from your school, and city's First High, right? So you must know him. At that moment, the host announced the first winner of the top 8 qualifiers, Chu Zhou from N-City First High. The principal of Qingfeng Private High heard the news and cursed angrily. "Damn, we lost right at the start." At this point, he asked calmly, "How does Luo Shi compare to him?" Shen Guan smiled and replied that he was a martial arts president at Qingfeng Private High's senior year level. Honestly, in terms of combat, his 2 teammates combined couldn't even match him. Then, he suddenly turned his gaze toward Yi He and stated calmly that if he's being honest, he thinks Yi He will be his biggest rival in this exam. Shen Guan had always had an extremely sensitive sense, and he feels that Yi He is like a dormant volcano with a beast hidden inside him. He points to the arena and motioned for them to go on stage. It was their turn. So with that, Yi He and Shen Guan face off in the arena. The host announced the second match of the top 8 qualifiers, Shen Guan from Qingfeng Private High and Yi He from N-City First High. As the competition for the top 8 to 4 in N-City's college entrance exams enters its peak, the fist of Shen Guan collided with Yi He's fist in an explosive impact, sending debris flying, and the solid platform under their feet exploded, forming a huge deep pit. With a reverberating boom, the sound pierced the audience's eardrums as a massive shockwave blinded their direct line of sight. Shinguan sneered excitedly the moment he managed to counter his attack with strength comparable to his own, or maybe even higher. And although he was having a nosebleed, there was no anger on his face, but ecstasy. He'd finally found an opponent who could compete with him in strength, and this truly excited the shit out of him. He also figured out that his nosebleed must be an ability of Ihi's bloodline. It was truly mysterious to be able to directly target an opponent's cells for destruction. But no matter, he knows how to deal with this trivial challenge. He stared at Shinguan with a calculative look. Shinguan managed to use his martial energy to create a barrier around his body, shielding himself from Ihi's nuclear radiation. His eyes glowed in delight as Shinguan commended his martial art. It was truly amazing. He was really a monster not to be trifled with. So in this case, he will also show him his martial arts which had been passed down from generation to generation in his Shin family. Shinguan activated his family's martial techniques, the Shape Wolf Fist, and followed it up with the Deer Peak. With swiftness and lethality like the venomous snake, and a defense-piercing effect comparable to the antlers of a stag, Shinguan's double fist moved as fast as lightning, rendering Ihi immobilized and unable to dodge. The double fist shattered Ihi's defenses and hit him squarely in the lower abdomen. Ihi was pushed back significantly as he clutched his lower abdomen and spat a mouthful of fresh blood. Ihi, previously known as the One-Kick Superman, was dealt with a powerful hit for the first time. Anyway, before he could allow himself a brief moment of respite, Shinguan was upon him with another powerful technique, the Bear Crash. You see, Shinguan's attacks are not simply physical attacks, but he had integrated his martial energy into his body, causing double the damage. And it doesn't help that all Ihi's previous opponents were all weak as shit. They had no experience fighting against a powerful adversary, and apparently so does he. Ihi raised his arms to block the attack, but was surprised when Shinguan's arms shockingly extended and became flexible, wrapping around him and pulling him in a tight embrace. He was half right about Shinguan's martial art. You see, not only can he inject martial energy into his body, but can also lock Ihi's martial energy, rendering him incapable of using martial arts for a limited duration. Shinguan then uses the A-Pearl technique to trash Ihi in the air across the arena. And while Ihi was in the air, Shinguan switched to the Tiger Pounce technique and gave Ihi a solid uppercut, then followed it up with the Eagle Dive the moment his opponent was heading for a crush landing in the arena. Seems this guy is literally a walking zoo. Anyway, Shinguan loudly declared his intention to win this match overwhelmingly, and under no circumstance would Ihi be able to win against him. He dives headfirst into Ihi, and shatters the arena in a bright and devastating crash as debris flew everywhere. Shinguan crossed his arms and laughed with satisfaction, believing he had won. With this overwhelming and relentless barrage of attacks, Shinguan believes he had no chance to fight back. He's definitely got the match in the bag. The medical staff outside the venue even readied themselves to move onto the arena, because the Shape Wolf Fist combination techniques the champion of Qingfeng Private High had just used would have killed even an ordinary martial artist. As the dust gradually settles, the host, clearly a dimwit and just an entertainer, was in the process of declaring Shinguan as the winner when suddenly, the supposed winner in question felt a terrifying presence behind him. What the hell is that? Such an enormous aura from a martial disciple. Shinguan turned to see the biggest shock of his life, as a massive paw, skinned with impregnable scales and lethally sharpened claws, stepped out from the dust. He words cut through the noise, praising Shinguan for his strength. But he was unfortunate to be matched against him. If it's any consolation, Shinguan is the first person to witness his current true form, his savage trace Demora bloodline awakening. Sweating bullets, Shinguan was petrified to see Ihi's beast embodiment. And apparently, if a high school student can display the magical embodiment of their magical beast, they can also enter Hadu University without taking an entrance exam. The host announced that he didn't expect that in the small city of Anqing, apart from Lu Qingzhu, a martial arts genius, there was also a bloodline genius. To think that Ihi's bloodline awakening was at such an overwhelming level was truly terrifying. For context, each examiner had been equipped with a monitoring headphone to monitor candidates and a range of factors inside and outside the examination room and arena. However, each examiner, especially the white-beard old guy, saw Ihi's nuclear radiation value and his eyes bulge out like they were being pulled out from their sockets. As anyone might have guessed, Ihi nuclear radiation was off the charts, sitting at 9999999. Seeing this level of nuclear radiation, the examiners were left with no choice but to immediately wrap the arena with martial energy to prevent nuclear leakage. And amidst the crowded audience, Ihi's bloodline was the center of discussion. They find it to be cool and fascinating, but no one knows what the bloodline of his magical awakened beast. What's even more shocking to them was that there was no record of his awakened bloodline in N's #1 middle school. Seriously, how could such a powerful monster be unknown? Anyway, surprising enough, he heard all these discussions due to his heightened senses and was not surprised. After all, it seems that there was no creature like Demora on planet Bluestar, so it's of no wonder that no one had heard of it. Anyhow, back to Xinguan, he was currently having a nosebleed again. So it seems that his martial energy, acting as a shield, was no longer sufficient to block Yihee's nuclear energy. With this in mind, Xinguan intended to end the fight since he couldn't drag it out for long. He also activated his bloodline awakening, the Golden Star Ape Demon, which encased his body with martial energy and increased his physique and overall stats. He even grew in size. He activated his Formwill Fist technique, the Snake Strike, and went on the offensive. Seeing this, he countered the attack with a strike of his own, which was a terrifying and definitely a powerful offensive attack, the Mountain Arresting Fist. But from an objective point of view, it seems like an upgrade version of Hyper Beam. Anyway, Xinguan's entire left arm was disabled, but if he hadn't released the force of the attack in time, his entire arm would have been completely shattered beyond recovery. Xinguan realized he was making such a big fuss before when he never went all out, but now that he knows he's being slapped in the face. And speaking of Yihee, this fucker was fully immersed in the fight that he'd foregone any reservation he had. He told a dominated Xinguan that he was outstanding. But unfortunately, this is as far as he can go. This current outcome cannot be changed. Seeing the activation of Xinguan's bloodline awakened, the host announced in delight that in the second match of the 8-4 of this year's college entrance exams, the Third Order King bloodline had appeared, and his opponent on the other side was actually an unknown powerful bloodline of a magical beast, which was obviously rare to see. Xinguan took on a stance and calmed himself. He needed to assess his current predicament with a level head. After Yihee's bloodline awakened, his strength is simply unfathomable, so a direct confrontation was not advisable, since he is no longer able to suppress his martial energy. Now he can only retreat in order to advance when an opening presents itself. On the other hand, he made a mad dash towards the big guy, informing him not to be distracted. But the moment Yihee got close to Xinguan, the big guy made a tactical retreat and at the same time, activated his Formwill Fist, the Snake Strike. His arm became flexible and moved like a snake, wrapping around Yihee's left hand. With his left hand temporarily restrained, Yihee, surprised and distracted for a fraction of a second, saw Xinguan use this narrow opening to swiftly move behind him. Xinguan informed Yihee that he's unable to budge him as he expected. However, his aim was to reposition behind him all along. And now that he had, Xinguan leaped high in the air and suddenly stumped down on Yihee with a force comparable to the weight of 1,000 tons. Although the pressure would have immobilized any other candidate, Yihee swiftly dodged the bone-crushing stump with ease. Again, Xinguan made another tactical retreat with two massive leaps backwards the moment his attack failed. Believing he'd put enough distance between himself and Yihee, Xinguan looked up at his opponent and was surprised to see that Yihee was casually watching him the whole time with his arm folded. Releasing his terrifying aura, Yihee announced that it was his turn to attack. The moment he raised his right foot, he was upon Xinguan with another mountain arresting fist. Xinguan surprisingly got on his knees the moment Yihee was about to strike, and admitted defeat. He respectfully surrendered, leaving Yihee speechless. He was shocked with this outcome. He was all fired up, ready for his turn, but Xinguan was surrendering now. What is he going to do now that he's all riled up? Damn, this is so uncomfortable. Sighing heavily, he lets out a fiery breath and stated that holding back his energy really makes him so freaking uncomfortable. Nonetheless, according to the rules, once one party surrenders, the other party has no right to attack. The host declared Yihee as the winner, and the crowd cheered excitedly like crazed fans, claiming he was awesome and cool. In the comments section on almost all media platforms, Yihee and Xinguan's match was the trending topic of discussion. Xinguan was being humiliated as fans comparing his demeanor before the match and after the match. At the same time, Yihee's popularity and fanbase increased exponentially. A chat group was even established by his fans with full video of his matches in the college entrance exams. His fans had unanimously declared their big brother Yi as the top scorer of this year's college entrance exams. And not even Chu Zhou or Lu Qingzhu would be a match for him. At this moment, the principal of Qingfeng Private High was trembling all over with pent-up anger. After all, he'd placed all his hopes on Xinguan the moment Luosher lost. So, the moment Xinguan showed his face, he spared no time expressing his displeasure. How can Xinguan admit defeat? Did he know how much money they've spent on training him? Such an ungrateful bastard. If he doesn't pay off the debt, he shouldn't even think about going to college. Xinguan calmly approached the principal and placed his injured hand on his shoulder. When the principal asked what Xinguan was doing, he simply replied that he couldn't take Yihee's punch, so he admitted defeat in order not to hurt his already injured body. If he hadn't done that, was the principal going to take that punch for him? And as for the kindness Qingfeng Private High had shown him, he will slowly repay it in the future. But the principal should please refrain from threatening a warrior who was significantly stronger than him. The subtle threat shut the fat old bastard up real quick. Sweating bullets and trembling from fear, he stated that Xinguan had a point. Anyway, after a fierce competition, the top 4 of the year's college entrance exams was decided. They were Yihee, Lu Qingzhu, Chuzhou, and some nobody no one cared about. Meanwhile, the principal of An City's No. 1 middle school was in Cloud 9, fanning himself with an expression of a creepy old fucker. He admits old Lu had worked hard in the school for so many years, so it was time he got promoted. The draw for the semifinals took place, and Yihee drew first slot again. Unexpectedly, Lu Qingzhu also drew the other first slot as well, meaning she was matched up against Yihee, while Chuzhou was matched up against the nobody. The first match of the college entrance exams semifinals was an internal battle for An City's No. 1 middle school, deemed as the strongest battle in the history of An City's college entrance exams. The most anticipated showdown since the exams started. The Goddess Lu versus the supposed one-punch Superman. Some fans believe that the Goddess Lu has a better chance of winning, because apparently, the intel revealed so far was that she had mastered 2 mysterious royal martial arts. So, just by having them, she crushed Kai Shaoling, who had a 3rd-level king bloodline and the awakening of her 4th-level Netherbird bloodline which had not been revealed yet. Meanwhile, Xinguan also had a 3rd-order king bloodline, and Yihee was forced to awaken his bloodline by Xinguan. Although Yihee's bloodline seemed to be very powerful, it is estimated that he also has a 4th-level bloodline. However, he cannot compare with their goddess, who also had a 4th-level bloodline and superb martial arts background. A while later, the awaited time finally arrived. The arena was set, and the crowd at the venue erupted in excitement. He and Lu Qingzhu stepped on the arena, and the referee spared no time starting the match. The moment the match officially began, a cloud of dust and steam cast around Yihee, encasing him completely. This briefly covered the entire arena, blocking Lu Qingzhu's direct line of sight. But the moment she stared up ahead, she was surprised to see a silhouette of a terrifying presence encased by the dusty smoke and steam. Steeling herself, she hopes Yihee is strong enough. The audience, clearly obstructed by the thick steam covering almost the entire arena, wondered what was going on. They couldn't see Yihee, and could barely make out the silhouette of Lu Qingzhu. So technically speaking, in that current moment, they couldn't see anything and could only rely on the host to help grasp the situation of the battle. Anyway, the host kept the engagement high and anticipation palpable, questioning how Lu Qingzhu, the talented young miss from the Lu family, would deal with Yihee, the dark horse in this year's college entrance exams. With this amount of steam, could it be that the dark horse Yihee had awakened his bloodline again? They can only wait and see. But apparently, it turns out that Yihee had only directly entered the state of blood awakening to burn out this amount of steam. And the reason for this was to hinder Lu Qingzhu's direct line of sight, and by just a little more time to assess his battle strategy more in depth. And besides, he knew Lu Qingzhu wouldn't make the first move anyway, so this works in his favor. He had studied the battle video between Lu Qingzhu and Kai Shaoling, and had formulated a battle strategy based on it. Yihee was obviously aware that Lu Qingzhu's martial arts skills were far superior to his. With her magical martial arts skills, no matter how strong his power was, he can't hurt her. She was the kind of martial arts genius that had a very high combat IQ. So the longer the battle lasts, the more disadvantageous it will be for him. Seems Yihee has to go all out right from the start. Activating his mountain arresting fist, a sonic boom occurred on the spot as Yihee made a mad dash forward, and was upon Lu Qingzhu with a massive glowing fist. The attack was so obvious that Lu Qingzhu, ever calm and vigilant, evenly spread her hands and stirred the airflow in front of her, as if trying to absorb the fist that was coming at her. She believed that since Yihee was taking the initiative to make the first move to attack, then she will use her martial arts to defend and counterattack. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Yihee's mountain arresting fist never came. Rather, he skillfully twisted his hips together with his waist the moment he deactivated the skill and landed abruptly, closing the distance between himself and Lu Qingzhu. Then, he used his martial energy to create Demora's thick tail behind him and swung it flexibly like a steel whip, bursting the air and striking Lu Qingzhu's lower body from the side. What the hell? He actually cheated me. In all her years fighting since she was a child, Lu Qingzhu had never encountered an opponent who had clearly committed to using a fist to strike, but changes abruptly and ended up using a steel whip. You see, when masters fight, changes often occur within a few critical seconds. Now, Lu Qingzhu's rhythm was disrupted, so she backflipped a couple times to put some distance between herself and Yi. However, Yi was not going to waste such a good opportunity when his opponent had clearly lost her rhythm. Relying on his strong physique to chase and attack fiercely and firmly to gain the upper hand, he was suddenly upon Lu Qingzhu the moment she tried to balance herself. Meanwhile, in the live broadcast, netizens watched Lu Qingzhu being deceived by the cunning Yi and had immediately fallen into a disadvantage. Some began to scold Yi for being unethical, but there were others that still supported Yi's actions. After all, when warriors fight on a battlefield, all is fair war. Anyway, Yi's pursuit was too fierce and relentless, leaving no chance for Lu Qingzhu to escape at all. An endless barrage of skill and attack rained down on Lu Qingzhu like a meteor shower. At some point, Lu Qingzhu was able to use her martial energy to shake off Yi slightly, briefly escaping her opponent's grasp. Or so she thought, because Yi transformed his right hand into a beast form with lethal claws. And it seems Lu Qingzhu wasn't getting away that easily. Suddenly, the dark, impregnable claws of Yi was directly imbued with martial energy as it tore through the air. Fortunately for Lu Qingzhu, she was able to sense this. She skillfully flipped back horizontally in the air just in time to avoid being swept by the projected claws imbued with martial energy. They even exploded behind her the moment she gracefully landed. And of course, her dear classmate was upon her again, giving her no room of respite. The two were right back where they started. He on offensive, releasing an endless barrage of attacks, and Lu Qingzhu on the defensive, blocking one wave of attack after another. He roared, and his fists swung out like afterimages, constantly compressing Lu Qingzhu's escape space. At some point, she wondered why he wasn't even the least bit tired from these numerous high-intensity attacks. Seriously, it seems her opponent had a great physical strength and stamina. You see, Lu Qingzhu had mastered two mysterious royal martial arts, one of which was the defensive Lu family secret art, the floating shadow, and the other was the Hunyuan jade finger, which was more offensive. If she could use either of these techniques, she would be able to escape from Yi's onslaught. But it was as if Yi was aware of this and wasn't even giving her any chance to do so at all. And from the looks of things, she won't be able to hold on for much longer before she falls off the arena, thereby losing by eviction. Lu Qingzhu had a cool and pretty face on the surface, but inwardly, she was already sweating from anxiety. Also, forced into a corner, she was left with no choice but to use her trump card. He immediately sensed a sudden shift as Lu Qingzhu activated her bloodline awakening, the Nether Bird. At that very moment, Yi, who was about to punch Lu Qingzhu, quickly retracted his fist and retreated. The reason was the dark purple sparks that came out of Lu Qingzhu's body. With a loud and sharp cry of a bird, he saw Lu Qingzhu soaring into the sky, and the Demora's blood flowing in his body began to boil, as if he felt the provocation of another creature at a very high level of life. Plump dark purple wings had grew on Lu Qingzhu's back, and under the light, the wings sparkled with colorful light. The dark purple wings did not need to flap because the wind element automatically lifted Lu Qingzhu into the air. Her amethyst-like pupils stared directly below at the dark blue demon on the arena, and the air suddenly seemed to be sparking with the fighting spirit of the two. The host loudly and enthusiastically announced that although Lu Qingzhu was still far from mastering the true form of her bloodline, she was able to develop the most important organ of her bloodline, the wings of the Nether Bird. For the first time, the Nether Bird can be seen on full display by none other than our genius beauty Lu Qingzhu. Subsequently, the live broadcast platform lit up at this moment as comment kept pouring in like a tidal wave. After her bloodline awakened, Lu Qingzhu stretched out her slender jade finger and pointed at Yi as her fingertips began to turn a transparent jade color. In a cold tone, Lu Qingzhu declared for Yi to be careful, because she can't control her strength in this awakened form. Really? Yi replied excitedly from below. I'm glad you said that because up until now, I have only exerted about 50% of my strength. So I guess I can finally go all out. Don't disappoint me. Accompanied by a strong wind that swept across the entire arena, Lu Qingzhu was behind Yi in an instant like a bolt of lightning. He even smelled a faint and beautiful fragrance before he even registered Lu Qingzhu's presence behind him. Lu Qingzhu activated her mysterious royal martial art, the Hunyuan jade finger. He immediately turned and activated his atomic blast fist. A crystal blue light shone on his fist, and this was the skill Yi used to combine Demora's atomic reaction ability with martial arts. The elegant jade fingertips collided with the ferocious blue magic fist, and a massive energy reaction occurred where the two touched. Then, following a huge explosion of light and heat, the audience were blinded by the bright impact and the strong gush of wind. In the arena, the two, on the other hand, were also blown away by the turbulent airflow at the same time. Lu Qingzhu's dark purple wings flapped, and the wind elements automatically gathered together, offsetting the impact of being blown away by the airflow. Lu Qingzhu used this force to break through the smoke and dust, and was about to head straight for Yi when she suddenly felt a fatal threat. Shocked and surprised, her pupils suddenly shrank, because on opposite end of the arena, a sudden protruding vertebrae had appeared on Yi's back, and immediately began to lit up one after another in a dazzling sequence. Every time a vertebra lit up, it meant that a horrible atomic reaction was beginning to occur, and was gradually gathering at a single point in Yi's mouth. The immediate space around Yi was heavily charged with atomic energy, as blue thunderous sparks emitted on his protruding vertebrae like lightning, illuminating the massive stadium with a blue glow. In that very moment, instead of the immeasurable nuclear radiation being leaked everywhere like previously, it was rather controlled and gathering rapidly in the mouth of the undisputed king of all monsters. Lu Qingzhu was momentarily frozen in place the moment she felt this enormous energy fluctuation aimed directly at her. This was not good, and to make matters even worse, it was impossible to completely dodge this impending attack. And it seems the radiation around Yi was too massive to get close. Leaving the airspace of the stadium was not an option either, since it counts as stepping off the arena. The audience wondered what was going on as the host announced excitedly that apparently, Yi's magical beast form looks to be gathering power, and the protruding spine on his back also seems to be where this huge stored power was generating from, and was finally being transmitted to his mouth bit by bit. All the vertebrae on Yi's back inevitably flashed a blue light as Yi's wide-opened mouth showed a blue atomic light emitting a breath of destruction that was brewing in his throat. This unfathomable nuclear energy beam was Demora's atomic breath, and just like that, a dazzling blue particle beam spurted out from Yi's mouth. This terrifying torrent of nuclear energy created instantly submerged his opponent Lu Qingzhu. Already feeling the fatal threat of the nuclear attack, Lu Qingzhu still chose to bore the full force of it, or to be exact, angle majority of the energy away from her. She decisively folded her wings, wrapping herself tightly and activating her latent ability Awakening. Suddenly, the blood power of the Netherbird was stimulated by Lu Qingzhu in the very moment of life and death, and the countless dark purple feathers sparkled and reflected light like crystals. This was the Netherbird's feather deflection. The blue particle beam collided with the dark purple feathers, and like being refracted by a mirror, a thick condensed beam was refracted by the countless feathers into several small rays of light and reflected out. The light was centered on the dark badminton transformed by Lu Qingzhu, reflecting in all directions, and had already shot out of the arena. The examiners wanted to stop it, but it was too late. The audience saw this and was immediately washed in horror. They dreaded their fate because there was no way they could survive the numerous reflected beams. Fortunately for them, in that precise moment, a golden martial energy enveloped the entire arena, and all the beams that was directed outside the arena disappeared as if it was digested the moment it came into contact with the golden martial energy. This power act of neutralizing the countless beams was from City's mayor, Huang Qing. The audience and examiners wanted to greet the mayor, but he gave them a stern look to signal them not to do so. He told everyone to watch carefully. The strongest champion in the history of City will be born today. With enthusiasm, the host announced to the audience that they were fortunate to be protected by Mayor Huang, and with his presence, they can be assured that nothing unexpected like what just happened would repeat. Anyway, after about what seemed like 15 seconds, the atomic breath finally ended. Thick smoke was coming out of Yi's mouth and back like a steam engine, and his eyes were fixed on the girl in front of him who looked somewhat miserable. Lu Qingzhu spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Her two dark purple wings had melted after reflecting the atomic breath to the limit. If she had not used Vanity and Shadow in time to dissipate the remaining energy impact to the surroundings, she might not have been able to withstand Yi's attack. It's a pity that the bloodline of the Netherbird's true form was too difficult to control, so she hadn't unlocked its core attribute abilities yet. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had such a hard time facing that energy beam just now. You see, from the moment Lu Qingzhu was born, the Lu family had placed high hopes on her. Under the expectations of her family, Lu Qingzhu had to fight in one battle after another to establish her reputation as the eldest daughter of the Lu family. Although outsiders praised her genius and strength, she was not keen on these titles. Maybe she herself didn't even know why she was fighting, or even that she wanted to fight. She felt that it was meaningless to compare herself with others. She just followed her mother's expectations and moved forward silently, always giving outsiders the impression of being aloof and difficult to approach, but in fact she is just simply socially anxious. And the cold and expressionless demeanor is just a protective front for her social phobia. Anyhow, mentally and physically, she was so tired and drained, But based on the current situation of the battle, this could be about the extent of it if she plays her cards right. And no one would be the wiser. After all, with such a strong opponent, it's only natural that she couldn't win, right? Lu Qingzhu thought of this, and immediately prepared herself to pretend to admit defeat after a few more moves with Yi. She came in front of Yi and slapped his chest with a palm, inwardly begging him to hurry up and defeat her already. She knew Yi was smart enough to be able to seize the flaw she was showing. Unexpectedly, Yi didn't make any move and took her palm strike head-on. Lu Qingzhu's big beautiful eyes widened with great confusion in them. She wondered why he didn't dodge like he obviously should, but rather lowered his gaze and just stared coldly at her. Classmate Lu Qingzhu, Yi spoke calmly. Why don't you have the fighting spirit? I felt you were a little absent-minded since the start of the battle. Lu Qingzhu was surprised by this. She never expected that Yi would reject her subtle offer. He continued, his tone cold and clipped. Lu Qingzhu, have you ever looked me in the face? Because if you had, even once, you would have seen instantly that I'd always intended on winning this title fairly and squarely. He suddenly swung his fist, imbued with martial energy, downwards, and the wind from his fists whistled. In desperation, Lu Qingzhu used her arms to block her face and mobilize the airflow, trying to block Yi's fist. But in that moment, all the airflow mobilized by her was torn apart by her opponent. And although her arms protected her face, the punch still managed to connect with the lower section of her face. He called her out on her earlier move and warned her to better start facing him seriously. If she cherished her face, that is. You see, he didn't just throw that one punch and call it a day. He pounced on Lu Qingzhu and began raining punches on her face wildly, furiously urging her to start getting serious. Lu Qingzhu, on the other hand, protected her face with her arms, looking extremely embarrassed. She felt extremely wronged, recalling how she had never been beaten like this since she was a child. And now she's been dunked on the ground in front of hundreds of thousands of live viewers, with punches raining down on her head endlessly. She clearly wanted to give Yi the victory, so why was he still provoking her, trying to force her to fight seriously? You see, everybody has a bottom line, and Lu Qingzhu had tried her best not to lose control, but she finally reached her limit to what she could tolerate after being punched in the face. She roared like a phoenix rising from the ashes, calling Yi an asshole for hitting a girl in the face. Her eyes turned red, and an extremely powerful martial energy burst out, knocking Yi back a couple steps. When the scene shifted to Yi, the fucker looked extremely pleased. That's more like it, he coldly murmured. If the eldest daughter of the Lu family doesn't want to be hit in the face again, then she needs to get serious. There was a strong fighting spirit in Yi's eyes. As the king of monsters, his innate desire was to conquer other monsters. He wanted to let other monsters know that even if they try their best, they will inevitably submit to him in terms of strength. Lu Qingzhu's eyes were red, and the sudden burst of power was her activating the Lu family's forbidden martial arts secret technique, the blood ignition. It can increase the purity of the user's blood in a short period of time, squeeze out the maximum potential of the user, and increase the user's strength dramatically. However, this secret technique has too many side effects and should not be used until it's the last resort. This also means that Lu Qingzhu was starting to fight for her life. Ashes flew all over the sky, and a huge pair of dark purple wings spread out, stirring up a howling wind. There were strange patterns that had spread on Lu Qingzhu's pretty face, and the tail feathers behind her were swayed like an imperial robe as the shrill cries of the bird in her body echoed in all directions. Lu Qingzhu had also unexpectedly entered the true form of the nether bird, and after her true bloodline awakening, she looked radiant and confident, staring at Yi from above. Classmate Yi, I will defeat you with my strongest form as you wish. So, in that very moment, the fight between Lu Qingzhu and Yi reached the point where both parties were finally clear and explicit about their intentions to go all out. All the expectations from her family and everything that goes with it, such as her reputation as the eldest daughter of the Lu family, any lingering doubts, and all the expectation of affirming her status of being the strongest student in this year in city's college entrance exams faded at this moment. Lu Qingzhu was ultimately resolved, and her only focus was on defeating Yi. On the other hand, Yi, finally successful in pushing Lu Qingzhu to fight seriously and revealing her strongest form, was satisfied with this outcome. From below, he stared at Lu Qingzhu's radiant and dazzling nether bird's magical beast form with excitement. Now that his opponent's true form was revealed, the battle was eventually getting interesting. And since it had finally come to this, he won't be negligent either. He will also reveal his true form. Suddenly, the martial energy of Yi attached with his atomic reaction energy enveloped his whole body as blue flaming lights and thunderous sparks surrounded him. Shortly after, his entire body was skinned with impregnable scales radiating with a terrifying energy, radioactive energy to be precise. This was Ihi's physical skill that combines Demora's template with his hard qigong, named the Nuclear Light Combat Body, accompanied with a sudden explosive boom. The energy gathered under Ihi's feet made a deafening sound as he was propelled into the sky. This huge energy explosion pushed Ihi straight towards Lu Qingzhu like a missile. But this sudden display of engagement did not faze Lu Qingzhu at all. She just watched Ihi with an eerie calm. Then, she flapped her wings, mobilizing the surrounding air currents to gather into a hurricane. This hurricane, known as the Tearing Hurricane, was attached with the netherworld energy which had the property of devouring any form of energy. The Tearing Hurricane enveloped the entire space, crushing the base of the arena to pieces. He showed no fear at all, and dived directly into the netherworld hurricane like a torpedo. For context, diving headfirst into the Tearing Hurricane was tantamount to nothing short than a suicide, especially for a martial art disciple. The moment Ihi entered the Tearing Hurricane, he activated his atomic fist and produced a blasting punch. A massive blue energy explosion tore through the hurricane, breaking through the dust and rushing towards Lu Qingzhu in an unstoppable manner. Seeing this, Lu Qingzhu tapped into the explosive power of her netherworld bloodline and activated the cry of the nether bird. The strange patterns on her face instantly turned red and purple, becoming as hot as a branding iron. Lu Qingzhu endured this pain and opened her mouth towards Ihi. Then, visible sound waves distorted the air and swept over. Ihi's figure was drowned by these sonic waves, and the atomic energy in his body began to flicker like a flame. You see, if Ihi's legendary Demora bloodline wasn't high enough, his internal organs would have directly been torn into pieces by the aura of the nether bird's sound waves. Obviously, Ihi would eventually die by the attack. "Do you think you're the only one who can scream?" he questioned, almost amused, his eyes sparkling with a blue atomic glow. And just like that, he opened his mouth, and beams of blue light lit up on the vertebrae behind him, one after another. The atomic energy reacted violently, and this terrifying aura spread out. This sequence was familiar and could only lead to one outcome, Demora's atomic breath. Only this time, however, it was at the maximum power output. Seeing this, Lu Qingzhu also felt the pressure but was not overwhelmed like previously. There was determination in her beautiful eyes. Already accustomed with this move, she neither backed down nor tried to use her strongest defense. Rather, she decided to use the strongest defensive move in her family, deeming the strongest offense as the best defense. Placing her middle and index finger on her forehead, a familiar jade color shimmered brightly on the tip of her fingers. It was evident at this point that Lu Qingzhu wants to confront Yi head-on. In that moment, a dazzling blue light beam rushed straight towards Lu Qingzhu with the force that broke through the clouds. You see, the outcome with this move will decide the winner of this battle, because after using the maximum power of the atomic breath, no atomic reaction will be able to take place in Ihi's body for the time being. On the other end, Lu Qingzhu, who had already given up on any defense and released her strongest means of attack, the Shenhuang martial arts Hunyuan Jade Finger, superimposed with the power of the Nether Sparrow bloodline, the Netherworld Bloodthorn, produced an explosive and matching counterattack. The jade-colored fingertips gathered purple-red destructive energy, and Lu Qingzhu pointed at the incoming atomic breath light column. The dark purple wings behind her also provided her with all the impact force to split the atomic breath light column forward. The two destructive attacks headed towards each other with a head-on collision imminent. But at this moment outside the arena, everyone watched with anticipation as the host announced excitedly that the kind of collision of power released was not something the two warriors can control. The examiners knew the severity of the collision and immediately maxed the barrier around the arena with martial energy. On the other hand, the mayor wasn't pleased with Lu Qingzhu's battle strategy of using an offensive attack to counterattack Yihi's atomic breath. In his eyes, no matter which of these two geniuses had an accident, it would be a loss for the entire Anqing and even the Xia kingdom. So he decided to intervene. Not to stop the match, but rather to make sure neither Yihi nor Lu Qingzhu ends up as collateral damage. They've proven to be too important for their city to suffer any irreparable damage. Activating his genetic earth magic, the divine leyline wall, the earth trembled, and three thick high walls blessed with his martial energy rose up in an instant, blocking the atomic breath and netherworld blood thorn. The next moment, the stone wall collapsed and dazzling colorful light flooded everything. So as the dazzling energy explosion drowned everything, the martial arts shields released by the examiners together were all crumbling under the impact of this energy. Dust and smoke filled the entire arena and covered a huge portion of the stadium. Witnessing the aftermath of the collision, the audience realized that if the mayor hadn't intervened, most of them would have been collateral damage. Anyway, speaking of the mayor, the guy just stared at the smoke-filled arena with a solemn expression. You see, although he had just released 3 divine leyline walls in time to slow down the full-strength attack of Yi and Lu Qingzhu, his preparation time was too hasty, so the 3 divine leyline walls were not as strong as usual. In the end, they were smashed one after another from both sides, causing Yi's atomic breath and Lu Qingzhu's netherworld bloodthorn to inevitably collide with each other. You see, if anything goes wrong with either of these 2 people, even if he resigns as the mayor, he will not be able to quell the public's anger. In the hearts of the Xia people, a martial arts genius had the same appeal as a top star. Anyhow, at this moment inside the arena, a slender hand came to view as fresh blood drips onto the floor continuously. This hand obviously belongs to Lu Qingzhu, who had her entire left arm severely burned and messed up. She looked very miserable, crouching on the ground with her wings utterly burnt off. The martial power of her magical beast's true body had also been exhausted, so no more transformation for the time being. But even after all this, Lu Qingzhu didn't want to give up. She urged on, trying to will herself to still continue fighting. And just as she was about to get up, he came out from the dusty smoke, his sudden presence towering over her crouching form. If you don't get rid of the nuclear radiation in your body, you will be crippled in the future. Lu Qingzhu was silent for a moment. She recalled vividly that her move clearly hit her opponent, but why was Yi unharmed in any significant way? She finally spoke after a brief silence, wanting to know why he kept pushing her. She didn't even want to fight him to this extent, so why did Yi have to force her to fight seriously? Yi squatted down and looked at her directly in the eye. Do you really not want to fight me? Or are you just being rebellious and not wanting to admit your competitive spirit? When you were fighting so hard just now, I could feel your desire to win. Lu Qingzhu was speechless when she heard this, but when she thought things over during her recollection of the battle, she realized that Yi was right. She was thinking about defeating him just moments ago. That's why she even gave up on defending and used all her strength to attack. But then she suddenly wondered what was wrong with her. She obviously hated fighting and wanted to lose to Yi as soon as possible. But when she was fighting just a while ago, she felt it, a shift, an exhilarating feeling of fighting not for anyone but just for herself. Her wondering thoughts were cut short as Yi placed a hand on her left shoulder. This unexpected contact suddenly made Lu Qingzhu blush like a cherry tomato. He informed her of the reason she lost decisively. Apparently, she had too many distracting thoughts when she was fighting, and that's a recipe for failure against powerful opponents. He absorbed all the nuclear radiation in Lu Qingzhu's body, and then stood up. As she stared at her healed arm in confusion, he gave her a side comment, stating that she was still the strongest opponent he had ever met. So he hopes the next time they compete, if fate allows it, she would give it her all from the start so they can have the purest battle. This statement obviously deepens her blush even more. In that moment, Lu Qingzhu saw Yi under a different lens. The smoke and dust dissipated at this moment, and all cameras focused on the center of the arena. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yi stood proudly. The referee waited for a moment, and after seeing the current state of Lu Qingzhu, he declared Yi as the winner. And with that, the first match of the semifinals came to an end. In the next battle, Chu Zhou won without any suspense, and advanced to the final with Yi. Obviously, the final, being the last battle and the supposed biggest climax of the N-City's college entrance examination, will determine who will be awarded the title of N-City's top scorer. But to be honest, the biggest beneficiary had undoubtedly become N-City's #1 middle school, with the grand finale of the college entrance exams consisting of only its students. The dark horse from N-City's #1 middle school, Yi, against the talented apex of the same N-City's #1 middle school, Chu Zhou. In the live stream for viewers, the hundreds of thousands of people watching at this moment with great excitement and anticipation had skyrocketed to tens of millions. And although the finals had no suspense like the semifinals between Yi and Lu Qingzhu, this was primarily because Yi was just too OP, and not necessarily that Chu Zhou was not talented enough. Anyway, an opponent like Yi, who had defeated Lu Qingzhu, no one was optimistic about Chu Zhou. But Chu Zhou did not let this affect his fighting spirit. He was a pure warrior with a firm warrior's heart. When he first awakened, he was admired by thousands of people, but he never allowed such fame to get to his head. Now that he wasn't the favorite with no attention centered on him, he wasn't discouraged either. Because in terms of willpower, Chu Zhou believes he was much stronger than Lu Qingzhu, thereby could match Yi. At the referee's command, the final battle officially began. "Come at me with everything you've got." He showed his white teeth, his eyes shimmering with evident delight. Even though Yi defeated the supposed strongest candidate, Lu Qingzhu, he would not be careless when facing Chu Zhou, because according to his observation, Chu Zhou's combat IQ was likely to be the highest among this year's candidates. "Please enlighten me," Chu Zhou stated calmly and placed his hands together, then slowly opened them, and a cold ice sword condensed in his palms. This activation was the power of his bloodline. The ice sculpture. Chu Zhou covered his body with a layer of frost martial energy that isolated the surrounding nuclear radiation, which showed that he had also carefully studied Yi's fighting style. He came prepared. With his eyes fully focused, he took the 7 star steps. Then suddenly, his body left behind unpredictable afterimages, and he moved towards Yi. The moment a loud whoosh sounded, hundreds of swords stabbed at Yi from all directions. He just stood there, too lazy and unbothered to try to directly pursue the real Chu Zhou among his countless clones. He had his own way to break through these numerous illusory images. His fists were clenched tightly and his arm muscles became as hard as steel bars. But the most amazing thing was the blue atomic and martial energy radiating all over his arm in waves. The crystal blue light made the bulging veins on his arms clearly visible. Activating his explosive fist, he punched the floor in an explosive manner. The ground was shaken and a blue energy exploded forth, and with a deafening boom, the 10-meter radius around him was covered by nuclear energy. Chu Zhou was forced to retreat. What a monster! Chu Zhou looked at the dented arena that looked like it had been bombarded by cannonballs, feeling extremely fearful. With his defensive abilities, he couldn't possibly fight Yi head-on. In other words, is there really any warrior of the same age who can fight Yi in hand-to-hand combat? Even Shen Guan, the monster of Qingfeng Private High who specialized in physical strength, had no choice but to admit defeat and surrender when facing Yi whose bloodline had awakened. At this moment, Chu Zhou decided to use his long-ranged attack to consume Yi since he couldn't fight him in a close combat. Chu Zhou activated his bloodline awakening, the Ice Element Dragon. Dragon scales as crystal clear as ice grew out of Chu Zhou's body. His eyes turned into golden vertical pupils, and a pair of obsidian-like horns grew out of his head. With the power of his bloodline, he activated a skill, Ice Pulse. Suddenly, a violent cold current blew across the arena, and large pieces of ice spikes gathered into an ice tsunami that was dozens of meters high, rushing towards Yi. You see, the Ice Dragon status among the third-tier magical beasts is not as high as the king-level bloodlines of the Shadow Tiger King and the Venus Ape Demon. But in Chu Zhou's hands, it is even stronger than the blood power of Kai Shaoling and Shen Guan. The audience and examiners were surprised. With this strong bloodline power, a wave of ice submerged the entire arena, and the entire stadium, which was shrouded in the hot summer sun, suddenly dropped to below 0 temperature. The live stream that had just been constantly displaying how awesome Yi was, suddenly became completely silent, and his haters cheered excitedly, claiming Chu Zhou to be so handsome and condemning Yi as the devil. Chu Zhou gasped slightly. The sudden burst of such a strong icy force took quite a toll on his body. Even though Yi was frozen by the thick ice pulse, he did not breathe a sigh of relief. He wasn't naive enough to think Yi would be defeated so easily by him. But at this moment, a barrage of comments suddenly floated across the live stream the moment the iceberg started to melt, and Yi's wide-open mouth showed a blue atomic light emitting a breath of destruction that was brewing in his throat. Then the next moment, a bright blue beam of energy penetrated the iceberg and shot straight towards Chu Zhou. Chu Zhou, who had been on guard the whole time, was shocked with widened eyes. He couldn't believe how it was possible for Yi to break through such thick icebergs so easily and quickly. He instantly pushed himself away and manipulated the ground to raise an icicle imbue with martial energy to serve as a barrier. When the blue energy beam hit the thick icicle, a deafening explosion occurred. But luckily enough, Yi activated his atomic breath mainly to break out the iceberg he was trapped in, so it wasn't nearly enough as the previous instances. Nonetheless, it's too exaggerated. Yi's abilities were truly the most dangerous anyone had ever invigilated. Nuclear radiations, nuclear explosions, nuclear lasers. Can a high school graduate really handle all these abilities? The melted ice was evaporated by the high-energy heat from Yi's body as he took a step forward, clad in his usual nuclear light battle body. The atomic reaction in Yi's body accelerated, and his body was covered with a layer of dazzling blue flames. Any ice vaporized into mist when it approached within 5 meters of him. It seems that I have restrained you very much. Yi strode towards Chu Zhou, leaving a melting footprint on the ground with every step. No matter how Chu Zhou activated his ice-attributed blood to attack, it was of no avail. The gap in strength was simply too big. So far, only Lu Qingzhu had faced Yi in this form head-on, and even Shen Guan had surrendered directly. Nonetheless, Chu Zhou wanted to give it a try. Chu Zhou's golden dragon eyes flashed as he stared at Yi. He told his overpowered opponent of his last move. It was the current limit of his martial arts, and what he originally saved to face Lu Qingzhu with. Chu Zhou closed his eyes, shut down his 5 senses, and pointed the ice sword in his hand directly at the sky. A layer of frost covered his body, and the ice crystal dragon's scales on his body appeared even more dazzling. This was a manifestation of the full activation of his bloodline power. Soul-damaging sword intent. The first person to react was the mayor. The shock on his face was no less than when he saw Lu Qingzhu performing the Shenhuang martial arts. This is sword intent, he thought silently. But how old is Chu Zhou to already possess such strength? Accompanied by a gust of cold wind, Chu Zhou was already upon Yi, and a high-pitched dragon roar and sword sound echoed throughout the arena. A few drops of hot fresh blood dripped onto the ground, burning several pits in the ground as Yi showed his slightly injured hand. There was a sword wound on the back of his hand that was deep enough to draw blood, but the flesh on the wound began wriggling and also started to flash a familiar blue light, as if it was slowly healing itself. He calmly told Chu Zhou to wait until he gets a better sword in the future. Then there might still be a chance to seriously cut his skin. Chu Zhou's eyes widened as he stared at the broken ice sword in absolute disbelief. He knew full well he had lost, but his curiosity made him ask Yi how much of a chance he had. Well, the chance of success is a little better than being a dog licker. Sighing softly, Chu Zhou raised his hand, looked at the referee, and announced that he'd given up. And just like that, Yi became the winner of An City's college entrance examination finals. The audience and the viewers across all platforms on every live stream erupted in joy and celebrations, especially the numerous fans of Yi. It was unbelievable for the dark horse of this year's college entrance exams to truly be the dark horse to the very end. Yi's face and title was displayed on every billboard, every news channel, and every live streaming platform as netizens praised and celebrated their city's champion. Everyone knew that the level of this An City's college entrance examination qualifying tournament was much higher than in the past, and Yi, who was able to make it out of it, was naturally the strongest number 1 scorer in the entire Anqing's history. No one will be able to surpass him in the future. Back at the stadium, the audience chanted Yi's name repeatedly as the mayor joined him on stage. The host also quickly got on the stage and announced with bated breath. To all the viewers who followed the 24th college entrance examination in Anqing on site and through the live broadcast, after 3 days of bloody battles, our Anqing city's top scorer in the college entrance examination has finally been born. He is Yi from An City's number 1 middle school. Student Yi, I heard that your strength is the result of catching up from behind and accumulating strength over time. Now that you have won the top spot, do you have anything to say? He was beyond stupefied. He thought the host was indeed a cultured person. He can even describe his cheating in such a subtle way. First of all, I want to thank my teacher. He was the one who did not give up on me and encouraged me when I was at my lowest point. That's what gave me the fighting spirit. At this moment elsewhere, the head teacher who was watching Yi's speech through the live broadcast began to shed tears, thinking that he was really unworthy of Yi's praise. He was really derelict in his duty by not noticing this monster until just before the college entrance exams. Anyway, the moment Yi was about to continue, a lean, middle-aged man suddenly appeared in the audience and waved his hands excessively in front of Yi. But realizing Yi had no intention of acknowledging his presence, he raised his hands in the air and made the number 2 million. The middle-aged man lip-synced, and he turned out to be the principal of An City's number 1 middle school, who wanted Yi to promote their school. His reward was a 2 million scholarship. This changed the attitude of the money-hungry hyena real quick. Also, I want to thank my alma mater and my principal. Without his wise leadership, we wouldn't be here. Yi originally didn't know what to say, but after seeing the principal's clear instructions, he suddenly understood how to finish the award speech. Finally, I want to thank myself. Without my hard work and wisdom, I would never be as glorious as I am today. Seriously, this bastard didn't even feel the least bit embarrassed when he spout those lies. Unexpectedly, in that very moment, the system also congratulated him for winning the title of champion. He will be rewarded with a random template ability. His eyes widened. It turns out that this template also had an achievement system. He wanted to check his new template ability right away, but he also knew the awards ceremony was going on, and with tens of thousands of eyes staring at him, he would have no way of studying it carefully. It seems he could only wait until later. After that, the mayor gave a summary and announced how smoothly the college entrance examination was held and how it ended successfully. But the moment he left the arena, passing through the stadium's corridor and heading towards the entrance, a swarm of reporters, like a cackle of crazed hyenas, rushed him with cameras of all kinds as soon as he passed through the open door. Student Yi, do you feel any pressure in winning the first prize? How did you grow so fast in just half a year? Are you going to Huadu University? He screamed desperately for the reporters to stop chasing him. He had to pee. But a sleazy-looking guy made his way beside him and shoved his phone in his face. Smirking. "Student Yi, quick question. Between Lu Qingzhu and Kai Shaoling, who's prettier? Or do you prefer Xinguan? Or maybe Chu Zhou?" He said nothing and bolted even faster. He didn't have time to waste with these reporters and their weird fan service interviews. After finally ditching the frenzy media, he made his way inside an empty basketball court, his eyes full of excitement with this new system's development. Seriously, who would have known that Yi was not limited to just one template, but more can be drawn through the system rewards? This is just too freaking insane. Just then, a man in a black windbreaker came to him and interrupted his amazing reverie. "Student Yi, congratulations on winning the top spot." He jolted in surprise, wondering if the guy was a reporter. The man took off his hat in a respectful gesture and smiled knowingly. "Don't get me wrong, I'm not a reporter. I'm from the imperial capital, so let's talk about something more classified, something like the issue of genetic lock." He immediately became nervous when he heard this. He knew that he hadn't unlocked any so-called genetic lock. All his abilities came from the monster template. Did this guy know of his abilities? Who exactly was he? As he remained silent, the guy then asked if he'd heard of the term genetic lock from his father. He replied calmly that he had. You see, according to the memory from the original host, this is indeed the case. But from the little memory he obtained after the traversal, that term had only come up once from his supposedly ordinary father. The guy pulled an envelope from his bag and asked he if he was curious about how his father, an ordinary taxi driver, knew the word that was completely inconsistent with his profession. He raised an eyebrow. Could it be that there was a big secret? Or was there another expert? The guy handed Yi the envelope and stated that due to his special status, the imperial capital had authorized a restricted document for him. He opened the envelope, and his eyes widened the moment he began to read through. Project Prometheus, the research institute which was once a giant in the field of biological genes on Blue Star, was wanted and blocked by various countries due to a certain incident. Therefore, a large number of core researchers were forced to hide their identities and disappear in the city. Apparently, it was said that genetic lock technology was once a key project of Prometheus. After reading through the document, Yi's expression was full of disdain. He understood what the man in the windbreaker meant. Apparently, these guys believe Yi's ordinary father was a senior researcher at Prometheus. And he, the son, was definitely one of the secret research results of Prometheus. The guy in the windbreaker assured Yi not to worry. The country will not make things difficult for him. He specifically came there just to let Yi know the situation. After all, as the person involved, he had the right to know. The guy clearly feared Yi might panic and do something reckless. As a key prospect in the cultivation program of the country, his safety was their top priority from here on out. He just stared at the guy, deadpan. Seriously, if he tells this guy that he was calmer than even him right now, would he believe him? Then his attitude suddenly shifted, feeling all smug like he's been burdened with an enormous duty rather than an enormous convenience. Damn, it's so annoying being famous and important these days, isn't it? When one becomes famous, they get more attention and invite more trouble. Society was really all about status. Anyway, with that, the guy took his leave first and left the basketball court. The moment the guy left, this shameless money-hungry hyena rubbed his hands in delight. Now that he had made a lot of money in this college entrance exams, everything seems to be heading in the right direction. Not only did he get a ticket to Huadu University, but he also received a $2 million scholarship from the principal and an additional $800,000 bonus. However, the most important thing was of course being able to draw a new template ability. Although he knew that a template as powerful as the legendary Madflame Demora was hard to come by, he still looked forward to the new template. He spared no time initializing the beginning of his new template ability. A swirling dark purple vortex appeared in front of him, and the roars of countless monsters were heard from it, like a cursed void full of ancient beasts. He stared in awe, slack-jawed. A moment later, he understood what template he had drawn the second the result appeared. A chaotic sound of footsteps shook the earth as a D-rank Colossus-type humanoid template came to view, with its bloodline ability being giantification. A 60-meter colossal titan with an ultra-heated steam. Its evolutionary path was an immutable humanoid and the current compatibility was 1%. He wasn't particularly pleased when he read through the colossal humanoid template, simply because it paled in comparison to Demora's A-rank template. But then his eyes widened as a realization hit him like a thunderclap. You see, it just might be possible that the abilities between templates can be superimposed. So if the colossal humanoid template was superimposed with Demora's template, what would be the result? Holy shit, the implication was too incredible to even imagine. But one thing was clear, He wouldn't just be on top of all monsters but the true undisputed king of every monster in existence. And the first real hybrid. Meanwhile, as the scene shifted elsewhere inside a dimly lit villa with an auspicious setting, we're introduced to Hualong, a massive-looking guy who is currently on the phone with someone who happens to be a business friend of his. The person at the other end asks if Hualong had some personal matters to deal with and would not accept any more tasks for the time being. That's right, cancel everything on my schedule. Hualong hung up the call, took a deep breath as he repeatedly tapped the redwood table in front of him rhythmically. But the only sound in the room was the faint audio from a television broadcast. A dent soon formed on the redwood table where his finger struck. You see, Hualong's younger brother had been missing for over half a month, and the search team sent to investigate returned empty-handed. Not even a corpse was found, but they did find some residue at the place where his brother's signal last appeared. After testing, it was found that there was a small amount of nuclear radiation. As an experienced hunter of forbidden secret realms, Hualong didn't need any confirmation. His brother was dead. Worse, the scene had also been cleaned up. No trace, no mistake. Hualong's gaze was locked on the television screen, and as it replayed the footage of Yihee's battle with Lu Qingzhu, specifically the moment Yihee unleashed his atomic breath beam, Hualong knew. He just had the gut feeling, and on top of that, the only known warrior with a nuclear radiation ability was Yihee. Hualong closed his eyes regrettably, weighed down with sorrow and guilt. He repeatedly told his younger brother to quit with the underground involvement in society, but he didn't listen to his advice. And now he'd failed their mother. Hualong promised their mother that he would take care of him before she passed away. The moment Hualong opened his eyes, his entire demeanor and facial expression had transformed into something grotesque. He stared at a motion picture of Yihee being declared as the winner and acknowledged as a rare genius in An City. It's obvious that Huadu University would be vying for him. However, it's too bad that they would not be able to witness his enrollment. Early the next day, Yihee was just about to head into a secret realm to test the new template along with some other theories when he received a delivery. A handwritten letter from Chuzhou. In the letter, Chuzhou informed Yihee that according to the investigation of the Huadu Central Research Bureau, a new secret realm rift was projected to open in An City's Redwood Mountain at 3 p.m. that very day. The estimated level of the secret realm was around C rank or probably higher. Chuzhou plans to join the warriors who plan to explore the new secret realm, and was asking if Yihee would like a team-up. Yihee's first reaction after reading the letter was not about the new secret realm, but rather at the absurdity of using a letter as a means of communication. Seriously, what era was Chuzhou freaking in? Could that weird fucker also be a time traveler? Anyway, 3 o'clock in the afternoon at An City's Redwood Mountain. The once sparsely populated Mangrove Mountain finally welcomed the most visitors it's ever had in its history. Thousands of warriors had gathered at the Mangrove Mountain, including many powerful warriors and organizations with a long-standing reputation. Even helicopters and troops have been stationed there to prevent any accidental conflicts. The new secret realm means unpredictable dangers, but it also means that everything is undeveloped. It's also filled with rumors of getting rich overnight or opportunities for low-level warriors to soar to the sky. At the base of the mountain, he met up with Chuzhou, who now had a sword hanging around his waist. Chuzhou noticed immediately that Yihee had grown stronger again. He gave a creepy smile, annoyed and also surprised at this insight. He didn't expect Chuzhou to have such a keen sense. After all, he had just used some of his prize money to buy several gene serums and managed to increase the compatibility of the colossal humanoid template to 35%. Sure, it's just a D-rank monster template, but it has its advantages and grows faster, which can produce results quickly. The two chatted casually as they waited for the rift to open. Curious, he asked Chuzhou which university he applied for. Chuzhou's mood seems to be a little off, but he still replied that he applied for Huadu University. He had noticed this but chose not to pry. He simply stated that they might still end up as classmates in the future. In that very moment, the crowd erupted in excitement, announcing that the secret realm was opening. A gap about several dozen meters long appeared on the mountainside of Redwood Mountain, with a galaxy-like fluid flowing inside. Suddenly, a sharp scream came from the spatial rift, and the next moment, a ferocious monster bird with 3 heads and dark and purple feathers forced its way halfway out of the rift. This was undoubtedly a high-tier monster. Relying on its incredible advantage in the air, it grabbed the first position to rush out of the secret realm. But unfortunately, it was greeted by thousands of fully armed warriors. The warriors let out a battle roar that shook the mountains and forests, not caring at all about the 3-headed strange bird stuck in front of them as they all rushed forward aggressively. The 3-headed strange bird looked in horror at the thousands of warriors rushing towards it like crazy. The poor bird tried to drill back in, but embarrassingly, it was stuck. Within a few seconds, its huge body was trampled into mud by the warriors. He and Chuzhou followed behind a large group of warriors and also passed through the rift in the secret realm. And as for that three-headed strange bird, both its body and magic core were hacked to pieces. It was a tragic death. Inside the Redwood Mountains secret realm, everyone was greeted by a jaw-dropping sight. It was an extremely exaggerated forest of giant, colorful trees. Each tree was nearly 100 meters high. A dozen people may not be able to hug a tree, and the warriors under the trees were no different from ants. A thick metallic stench of blood rushed into Ihi's nose. Then he saw that a small tide of beasts had already gathered in front of the rift in the secret realm. It seems a few distance away from the entrance of the rift would undoubtedly become the first battlefield between the mini-beast tide and the arriving warriors. Without a moment of hesitation, the warriors rushed forward. Their roars and wails gathered together to play a cruel and bloody symphony of war. You see, the reason why the warriors resisted the beast tide in front of the secret realm instead of dispersing to look for treasures was because of a law enacted by the state. Warriors have the right to freely explore the secret realm, and also have the obligation to resist the beast tide in the secret realm for their planet Blue Star. If a warrior ignores the beast tide and causes the beast tide to flood into reality and cause casualties among the people, his warrior status will be revoked and he will be brought to a military court. For a warrior, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. He and Chuzhou also joined the ranks to fight against the beast tide. Chuzhou activated his bloodline and released a large stream of ice to freeze the feet of the monsters in front, hindering their movement. Although the ice would soon be shattered by the monsters and break free, it still successfully hindered their actions for a few seconds. Many warriors seized the opportunity and rushed forward to kill the frozen monsters. Unexpectedly, a beast tried to ambush Chuzhou from behind, but in that split second, the poor bastard was hit with an atomic fist and instantly melted into a meat paste. Chuzhou thanked a completely unfazed He the moment he warned him to watch his back. He, looking quite bored, added that none of the beasts inside the secret realm were worth fighting. And true to his words, a field of smoldering corpses behind him was a testament to this. Witnessing such an absolutely terrifying, grotesque scene, Chuzhou was stunned. He had already wiped out so many monsters effortlessly while he and the other warriors were carefully holding the line. This was undoubtedly the results of his nuclear radiation. It was hard to resist and silent. The most terrifying thing is that it will directly attack the cells of living things. On the battlefield, He, the human-shaped nuclear pollution source, can finally release radiation without restraint. There were constant wailing sounds coming from the herd of beasts. They opened their bloody mouths wide and tried to get close to He, but before they got a few meters closer, their flesh and blood melted and they collapsed to the ground, wailing weakly. Even if a few monsters forcibly break through the nuclear radiation network, they will only face Ihi's more ferocious atomic blasting fist. If a monster wants to attack in the air, it will be greeted by the dazzling atomic breath that symbolizes destruction. The only difference between a monster dying from these two moves and one dying from nuclear radiation is that it dies more quickly without having to endure the pain of slow withering. He was just absolutely terrifying. He was like the god of death on the battlefield. Wherever he goes, life within that vicinity begin to rot and die. His fighting style even made the rest of the warriors extremely frightened. They secretly felt lucky that Ihi was one of them. He, on the other hand, looked at the magic cores that could not even fill several bags, and couldn't help but smile, revealing the joy of a farmer's good harvest. But that smile frightened the surrounding warriors even more, and they felt goosebumps all over their bodies. Without counting Ihi's various moves derived from atomic reactions, not many warriors would want to make an enemy of him just with his deadly nuclear radiation field. In other battlefields not far away, the warriors who were fighting with monsters looked back and found the others behind resting leisurely. A curious warrior cursed in amazement, wondering why the fight behind them ended so quickly. Was there a high-level warrior among them? No, another calmly replied. Obviously, among them was Ancity's top scorer in the college entrance exams. The top scorer in the college entrance exams? Isn't that a martial artist? How could a martial artist possibly kill so many monsters? Apparently, the curious warrior missed the live broadcast of the college entrance exams, deeming it uninteresting. Seriously, what was so special about a fight between high school students? Hearing this, the other called him a foolish idiot, because that high school student can effortlessly beat 10 of him. You see, a beast tide can be formed because there were several lord-level monsters leading them. As long as these lord-level monsters were beheaded, the beast tide will disperse. Currently, about 10 high-level warriors had joined forces to go deep into the beast tide to search for lord-level monsters and carry out a decapitation operation. As for the other monsters in the beast tide, Although their average strength was weaker, their numbers were endless. As the battle dragged on endlessly, the warriors began to show signs of fatigue, so they decided to drive the monsters towards their champion. It's unclear who came up with this idea, but the warriors quickly reached a strategy to use Ihi's nuclear radiation field to fight against the beast tide. More and more magical beasts were led to Ihi's location, including some high-level magical beasts with extremely terrifying strength. He did not need to take the initiative to attack. He just needed to stay under the protection of the warriors and continuously release lethal amount of nuclear radiation to attack the beast tide. As for the nuclear radiation that managed to breach the martial energy of the warriors and accidentally made contact, Ihi easily absorbed them. With Ihi as the core on the battlefield, every warrior in his vicinity gathered around him, and together, they resisted the invading monsters. And although there were also some highly intelligent beasts among the tide, they discovered Ihi's peculiarity and could only guide other monsters to attack continuously in an effort to overwhelm their enemy. For a moment, the fighting intensity on the battlefield escalated rapidly, and it was unknown how long this intense battle lasted, until a flare flashed in the air, signaling the successful decapitation operation of the leaders of the beast tide. The eyes of the warriors, which had been numb from fighting, finally lit up. They won, and the beast tide was beginning to retreat. On the other side of the battlefield, Chu Zhou, who had been forced into a desperate situation a while back, finally wiped the sweat on his face in exhaustion. Chu Zhou breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that the fight against the first wave of beasts in the Redwood Mountain secret realm had been won. The beast tide retreated, and the thousands of warriors that had originally gathered were now reduced to just over 800 people. Those who survived were covered in blood, and many were left disabled, ending their path as warriors. This is the life of a warrior, enjoying glory and unfathomable danger, and never knowing which will come first. He walked towards Chu Zhou carrying several large sacks on his back. His relaxed look was very conspicuous among the warriors after the battle. He asked Chu Zhou if he knew how he can transport all his goods. You see, during the beast's tide retreat, he slowly came to the side of each magical beast that died of nuclear radiation and dug out their magic cores. Perhaps the warriors could still take advantage of the magical beasts that died from other attacks, but facing the magical beasts covered in deadly nuclear radiation, no one dared to even get close. Anyway, Ihi, feeling somewhat helpless, dropped the several large sacks filled with magic cores on the ground the moment Chu Zhou handed him a silver-black ring. It was his space ring. The money-hungry hyena couldn't help smiling when he saw a space ring worth tens of millions. He never knew Chu Zhou was that rich. A sudden bustling from the crowd behind them drew their attention. He and Chu Zhou looked up and found that many people were crowded in one place, each with eyes full of admiration. Soon the crowd made a path, and a tall, particularly upright man named Wu San strode in. He found that he was actually walking towards him. Apparently, Wu San and his group of friends were the high-level warriors who managed to eliminate the Lord-level monsters, ending the beast tide before the rest died of exhaustion sooner or later. He walked up to Ihi and introduced himself as Wu San, the leader of the Silver Wolf martial arts group in Anqing. He had just heard of Ihi's heroic performance from the members of the group, and was wondering if Ihi would like to join them. Joining the Silver Wolf martial arts group will not affect Ihi's college education, but will allow him to enjoy various subsidies and benefits. Wu San was even willing to sign an S-level group membership contract with Ihi. Wu San's words made the surrounding warriors extremely envious of Ihi. On planet Blue Star, warriors can apply to the Warrior Association to form a martial arts group. The group will receive sponsorship from various companies, which will be converted into activity funds for the group and various subsidies for the members. Without the support of a martial arts group, a single warrior cannot support his extremely expensive career. The Silver Wolf martial arts group was considered as a large-scale martial arts group in the entire Xia Kingdom. Even ordinary students of the Imperial Capital University were not eligible for the S-level contracts. This signing was definitely not unfair to Ihi, but rather a sign that Wu San values his talent. In that very moment, a gorgeous tiger with shiny hair walked out from the crowd. It wasn't a warcraft, but a genetically synthesized beast, created by a genetic company. Sitting cross-legged on it was a heroic woman. The woman previously wondered why Wu San left the moment the beast tide ended. Turns out he was running ahead to snatch away a prospect. She then invited Ihi to join the Chengda martial arts group. Although they were smaller than the Silver Wolf, she can guarantee that after Ihi joins the group, he can enjoy 15% of the group's monthly training resources. As soon as these words were spoken, all the warriors' eyes widened. 15% of the training resources? Isn't this equivalent to investing? It seems that they still underestimated Ihi's potential, causing these martial arts groups to make crazy concessions and scramble for him. Other martial arts group leaders were all silent. They also wanted to win over Yi, but Chengda and Silver Wolf both offered such high conditions. They needed to think about whether it was worth it to offer conditions comparable to those of these two martial arts groups. But soon, Yi gave his answer, apologizing to the two that he doesn't have any intention of joining a martial arts group for the time being. Wu Sen and his companions were not surprised by this answer. After all, with Yi's level, he would be extremely outstanding even if he wasn't placed in a top martial arts group. They regarded winning him over this time as a way to establish a good relationship. Several people came forward and extended the same courtesy. And after a few brief greetings, they all left. During this period, Chu Zhou was also invited by Wu San and others. He was also offered an S-level contract, but just like Yi, he declined. The Beast Tide crisis ended, and many warriors left one after another, starting the stage of free exploration. Since the secret realm was a forest of giant trees, he suggested they go to the top of the tree canopy to see the overall layout of the entire area before making any plans. Chu Zhou had no objection, he thought so too. Looking at the giant tree that was hundreds of meters high, they used their own methods to climb up. Chu Zhou gathered strength with his knees and then jumped up suddenly. When his jump reaches the highest point, he will control the moisture in the air and condense it into ice under his feet as a fulcrum, and then perform a double jump. He was even simpler and more brutal. He directly activated his nuclear light combat body mode, gathered nuclear energy under his feet, and then ejected it like a rocket, propelling his body into the air. He was the first to reach the tree canopy, seconds before Chu Zhou did. But what the two saw made Chu Zhou's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. What the hell is that? The two saw a group of black humanoid creatures moving slowly in the distance. Their bodies are as huge as mountains, and they can be seen even hundreds of kilometers away. Such a huge body must be more than 1,000 meters tall. It's really hard to imagine. Hearing this, he disagrees. It is not difficult to imagine that they were still young. In the next few years, they may be able to even conquer these mysterious beasts and even find out the truth about the secret realm. Chu Zhou looked at Yi in silence, feeling that his classmate was worthy of his name. He would feel fear when facing an unknown powerful existence, while Yi would be confident that he could defeat such powerful existence. It seems he was not as good as Yi not only in martial arts but also in willpower. He was the real warrior. Yi, on the other hand, didn't know that his casual remark had written a 1,000-word essay in Chu Zhou's mind, and being regarded as a life mentor. Anyway, Yi was not simply looking out from the treetops, he was also maintaining his life magnetic field to detect the distribution of life in the secret realm. But the strange thing he noticed was the location of a lake that appeared completely blank in his magnetic field, like a vacuum zone. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. Where there's smoke, there's definitely fire. And the bigger the wind and waves, the more valuable the fish. He pointed a finger southeast and told Chu Zhou to take a look. There was a lake there, so they needed to go take a look. He decisively took Chu Zhou to the lake to go all in. The two of them quickly passed through the giant tree forest and came to the edge of the lake. When they arrived, 3 people had already gathered there, one of whom was an acquaintance of Yi. He was surprised to see Huang Yuli, who joked about his sudden appearance with a chuckle. Well, isn't this our top scorer? Huang Yuli didn't expect the high school student she helped weeks ago to be so powerful. She sponsored Yi with a discounted warrior business card when he debuted. And although it wasn't a big help, he always remembered it. The teammate beside her, a tattooed bald guy, also joked when he found out Yuli knew the little top scorer of An City. Exactly, hurry up and introduce him to us, the other teammate in glasses added. After all, this top scorer was quite impressive when he was fighting against the Beast Tide a while ago. Huang Yuli briefly recounted the story of Yi's first entry into the Warrior Center, which made the other 2 teammates marvel at the wonder of fate. A young man who was met by chance would surprise everyone half a month later. Curious, Yi asked how long Huang Yuli had been there. She replied that they just arrived not long ago, and 2 of her teammates who were good at swimming went down to the lake to explore the way. But just as Huang Yuli finished saying this, a figure rushed to the surface of the water. He was a teammate of Huang Yuli and the others. Yu Yang said to everyone with evident excitement, "Jackpot! We've hit the jackpot, guys, we're gonna be rich." Hearing this, Huang Yuli asked Yu Yang to explain what he just said more clearly. How did they strike it big? Yu Yang explained that there's a ruin under the lake. Upon hearing this, the entire team, especially Huang Yuli, was extremely excited. But with the exception of Yi, everyone understood what Yu Yang had just explained. He nudged Chu Zhou's arm and asked him to explain. In the secret realm, there are some mysterious buildings that are suspected to be left by a civilization in the secret world. They were collectively called ruins by experts. The ruins contain technologies or artifacts left behind by a civilization in the secret realm. Chu Zhou paused, and then continued. It is said that the theoretical basis of our modern human martial arts and many genetic technologies come from these ruins. Perhaps Yu Yang was too excited, because he realized that two outsiders, Yi and Chu Zhou, were also present after he told his teammates this information. Yu Yang secretly regretted having leaked the news without surveying his surroundings. He immediately stared at the two with hostile eyes. Chu Zhou sensed the murderous intent as Yu Yang placed a hand on the sword at his waist. People die for money every day, so it is not uncommon for them to kill each other in front of ruins where interests are important. Anyway, just as Yu Yang was about to engage, Huang Yuli angrily shouted, stopping the idiot. He placed an elbow on Chu Zhou's shoulder as the two stared at Yu Yang with a mocking look. Huang Yuli explained that Yi and Chu Zhou were the first and second in City's college entrance exams. Their strength far exceeds that of most ordinary warriors, so it would be better to have them join for the raid. This made Yu Yang ask how they were going to divide the spoils. Hearing this, he was unbothered. As external aid, the two of them will be allocated according to their effort. The more they contribute, the more loot they get. Yu Yang's eyes flickered, and seeing that the remaining two teammates agreed, he didn't say anything more. After all, he was in an extraordinary position now and was destined to be a big shot in the future, so it was better not to make enemies with him if possible. Finally, Yu Yang led the way as everyone followed him into the lake. Relying on a warrior's powerful lung capacity, the six of them dived 30 meters to the bottom of the lake. Yu Yang found the mark left before and led everyone to a cave at the bottom of the lake. There was a hidden secret passage in the cave. When everyone surfaced from the water, they found themselves in an underground cave. After Yu Yang got ashore, he muttered in confusion. This is really strange. Where is that guy Li Wei? Wasn't he asked to stay here? Maybe he found some treasure and left first. The tattooed guy stated a little angrily, obviously thinking that Li Wei was very unfair. Yu Yang took out the walkie-talkie and called Li Wei several times, but there was no response. Yu Yang had a bad feeling that something had happened. But then Huang Yuli asked calmly, after you guys came to this underground cave, did you explore whether there are any signs of monster activities? No, Yu Yang replied. Li Wei and I released all the monster bait bombs, but not a single monster hair appeared. The other female teammate was shaken. This underground cave seems very dangerous, and Li Wei was also missing. Maybe they shouldn't continue exploring. This annoyed Yu Yang, who shouted in response. We must explore. If we dare not take the wealth and glory in front of us, then we will be low-level warriors all our lives. Those who are afraid of death should get out now while they still can. Due to this, no one present withdrew, and even the female teammate who had just proposed the withdrawal remained silent. As Yu Yang said, if the mountain of gold was right in front of them, it would be against human nature not to grab it. In that case, the group proceed forward. Yu Yang led the way for everyone. Because of Li Wei's loss of contact, the group was now very silent, always on guard against possible dangers. Yu Yang took out an ultraviolet flashlight and shone it on the ground. The marks he and Li Wei had left in advance were clearly visible under the ultraviolet flashlight. The group gradually went deeper into the underground cave, and the road became narrower and narrower until only one person could pass through. He walked in the narrow tunnel with his eyes flickering. He turned his head to meet Chu Zhou's eyes and began to speak in lip language. Chu Zhou, something is wrong. Yeah, I noticed too, the time doesn't match. They both noticed something was wrong because it was so obvious. Huang Yuli said that their team had just arrived at the lake not long ago, about 10 minutes at most. But Yu Yang and Li Wei were able to find this cave at the bottom of such a huge lake, and through the underground cave, they found such a hidden route leading to the ruins. It's just like having a map perspective in a game. Perhaps the temptation of the news about the ruins was too great, or perhaps the parties involved are confused while the bystanders can see more clearly. Faced with their former teammates, experienced warriors like Huang Yuli did not notice anything unusual. This is obviously a scam. Chu Zhou wanted to know if he should alert Yi's acquaintances and leave, but Yi told him not to panic. He had a trump card. Chu Zhou nodded and remained silent. If Yi was sure, then there was no need to question. Walking out of the narrow path, the view in front of the group suddenly opened up. Huang Yuli and the other two teammates looked gloomy. Huang Yuli suddenly asked Yu Yang about the ruins he spoke of earlier. The huge cave they were in was the size of a football field, with dense dark green vines covering every corner. Many vines were wrapped with dull magic cores, and around them were the corpses of magical beasts that had turned to bones. No wonder we didn't see many aquatic monsters when we were diving. It turns out that they had already been devoured by a top predator. Suddenly, the other teammate screamed, At the location where she pointed was a dried corpse pierced by vines hanging in the air. And judging from the clothes the corpse was wearing, it was Li Wei. Huang Yuli and her female teammate were trembling with widened eyes. And Yu Yang did not answer Huang Yuli's earlier question about the ruins. He suddenly knelt on the ground, holding his head, and talking to himself neurotically. Yu Yang seemed to have regained his last bit of sanity. He suddenly turned around and looked at everyone, murmuring something incoherently about Li Wei's death, the vines catching up to him, his escape, and a whole bunch of nonsense. But the next moment, his head began to swell up, and seconds after, it exploded like fireworks, and several vines swayed from the gap in his head like the tentacles of a devil. A split second after that, a dazzling blue light beam submerged Yu Yang's upper body, and those strange vines were also destroyed by the atomic energy. Who would have thought that a monster could be so intelligent? After hunting two warriors, it actually parasitized the brain of one of them and used him as bait to lure more prey. He looked at the dark green vines that were slowly moving in the entire cave with cold eyes. With a crackling sound, a huge rock entangled with vines fell from above like a freaking meteor and collapsed behind them, blocking their retreat. Chu Zhou looked at these terrifying vines and finally remembered that he had read information about this kind of monster in a book. It was a second-order king-level magical beast species, the ghost demon vine. Upon hearing this, Huang Yuli and the two other teammates paused in their breathing, trembling with fear. The king-level blood species cannot be estimated by ordinary levels. This level was simply not something that a few first-level warriors like them can fight against. He grinned, revealing his white teeth. He didn't care what level it was. Everyone would just have to watch how he hacks it to pieces. But just as he was about to enter Colossal Titan mode, a loud boom sounded from behind. The collapsed passage behind them was blasted open, and a mysterious warrior with terrifying blood energy swept over. The blood energy on his body even distorted the surrounding air, leaving a long trail of bloody smoke. With this much chi and blood smoke, he was an 8th-level warrior. You see, originally, Huolong had no plans to come to the secret realm of Redwood Mountain. But when he heard that a certain someone in the secret realm was using terrifying nuclear radiation capabilities to help the warriors resist the beast tide, he immediately realized that this person was Yi. After arriving at the secret realm, it was very easy to find his target's trace. As long as he follows the routes where there was a small amount of radiation left, he can find Yi's whereabouts. When he found Yi, it was just when Yu Yang emerged from the lake. And although Huolong was far away from them when he found Yi's location, he also heard Yu Yang's mention of ruins. Huolong's breathing became a little rapid, so he chose to stay put for the time being, waiting for Yi and the others to enter the bottom of the lake and find the ruins before taking action. In the secret world, warriors killing each other often occurs. And because it was difficult to obtain evidence, the government often turns a blind eye. So this was the perfect opportunity to kill his brother's murderer and City's top scorer without worrying about the Xia Kingdom's retribution. If he can take some valuable items from the ruins with him, then he will definitely flee to a country that is strong enough to shelter him if trouble arrives. Huolong concealed his breathing and followed the group into the underground cave. But unexpectedly, they destroyed the narrow tunnel as soon as they went in, blocking Huolong's way forward. Huolong's heart sank, and his first reaction was that he had been exposed. Huolong believed he noticed his presence, even though he stopped his heartbeat, breathing, and other states and fell into a state of suspended animation. He really underestimated Yi, and Yi was worthy of being the one who can force his younger brother into a desperate situation. He, on the other hand, had just noticed Huolong's presence, and was even confused that the mysterious 8th-level warrior was in search of him. Why was this freaking uncle pining for him? He didn't even know the guy. He just rushed in all of a sudden and monologued some gibberish like they knew each other. The strange thing was that he seemed to feel that this mysterious warrior glanced at him with resentment. But it must be an illusion, right? Huolong directly burst out with the blood and energy of an 8th-level warrior, and had already broken through the collapsed tunnel, bulldozing his way out and declaring that Yi should prepare to die. Huolong launched in Yi's direction, his roar like the sound of thunder. In the air, he soon realized that something was wrong. The supposed ruins in front of him was clearly the cave of a powerful monster. You see, the demonic vine hunts its prey based on its life breath. And at this moment, Huolong's life breath was the strongest, so he became the demonic vine's primary target. A thunderous boom sounded, and the entire cave at the bottom of the lake was shaking as if there was an earthquake. Countless vines shattered the rock layers and rushed towards Huolong. Huolong looked at Yi unwillingly. Cursing, Huolong questioned Yi if this was also his plan. Huolong's path towards Yi was blocked, and he could only resist the attack of the demonic vine. After all, it was a king-level blood species, Even if it was only the second level, it could still cause a veteran warrior like him to fall. The ghost demon vine raised wave after wave of demon vines, trying to kill Huolong. But Huolong's punches and kicks were like artillery shells, and countless vines close to him were blown into pieces, with their juice spilling onto the ground. Although it seemed that Huolong had the upper hand, the greatest characteristic of the demon vine was that it absorbed qi, blood, and martial arts and released nerve toxins. Huolong could feel that his condition was declining, while the demonic vine was growing endlessly. If the battle lasted a long time, he would definitely be defeated there. Huang Yuli, clearly alarmed, informed the group that the cave was about to collapse because of the fight. But she was immediately told to get out of the way. A dark blue rough skin had grown on Ihi's body, with crystal blue light flowing through the cracks on his skin. He opened his mouth, and the protruding vertebrae on his back lit up with blue light one after the other. Then, accompanied by a thunderous boom, the maximum power of the atomic breath was released, and a torrent of blue light that seemed to break through everything broke through the rock formation above everyone, shot into the lake above the rock formation, and then rushed out of the lake and shot into the sky. A large amount of lake water poured into the cave from the gap above, and the passage leading to the outside world was surprisingly opened by Ihi. He told Huang Yuli and her teammates to escape first. Hearing this, they did not hesitate and did as they were told. After all, among them, Ihi, although not an official martial artist, was the strongest. If he did not stay behind to cover the retreat, the others would not be able to do so. "Don't even think about running away," Huolong shouted loudly, and all the martial energy burst out of his body, shattering all the demon vines within a radius of dozens of meters. He stomped the ground, and a wave of air exploded behind him, and he rushed towards Ihi like a missile. Chu Zhou, who had been on guard the whole time, drew his sword at the first opportunity, and the power of his bloodline burst out, pouring all the cold air into this sword made of cold attribute material with a martial energy transmission rate of up to 82%. He activated his soul-damaging sword intent, and an extremely sharp sword energy cut a vacuum zone in the air, and a thick layer of ice condensed wherever the sword energy passed. Huolong threw a punch, and his fist rubbed against the air to create a flame, and his raging blood made the flame appear blood red. The blood flame fist and the icy sword intent collided, causing a large amount of water mist to scatter. He knew that Chu Zhou's sword could not stop the opponent. After all, the gap in martial arts was too big, so he rushed into the water mist right after him, activated his nuclear light combat body, and the terrifying atomic energy gathered on his fist. The dazzling blue light illuminated the entire underground cave as Ihi activated his atomic explosive fist. Huolong, who was caught off guard by Ihi's punch, flew backwards and smashed into the stone wall. Huolong spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and crawled out from the stone wall. After receiving Chu Zhou's strongest sword and Ihi's charged punch, except for the burns on his skin, he still exuded a powerful aura. High-level warriors have their skin, flesh, and bones tempered, and even their internal organs have been tempered in every way. Their entire body has long since turned into an incredibly tough killing machine. He told Chu Zhou to leave first. After Chu Zhou swung his sword, his momentum weakened. He knew that he could no longer help Ihi, so he decisively withdrew so as not to cause him any trouble. Not long after Chu Zhou left, the cave began to collapse on a large scale. Countless rocks fell down, revealing the thick ghost vines inside. Meanwhile, Huang Yuli and the others stood on the shore, watching the lake become turbid, and the sound of the ground collapsing continued to echo at the bottom of the lake. It was obvious that the demon vine had gone completely crazy, and it was stirring up the entire lake bottom into a mess. Huang Yuli was relieved when Chu Zhou also came ashore, but she found that Ihi did not follow Chu Zhou. "Where's Ihi?" Chu Zhou looked at the bottom of the lake and didn't say anything. At this moment, a brilliant blue lightning flashed across the lake, illuminating the entire surface. And the moment Ihi bit his palm, fine blue electric current burst out from the wound. Huolong felt something was wrong, so he sprinted towards Ihi with all his strength, trying to interrupt him. But it was too late. With a deafening boom, a dazzling blue lightning burst out from Ihi's body, and Huolong was directly submerged by the countless blue lightning. His muscles, which were as hard as an alloy, began to carbonize the moment they touched the lightning. Similar to an Attack on Titan transformation type shit, every Titan transformer transforms by biting their palm. And during the transformation, huge energy will burst out of their body, usually released in the form of lightning. Since the Colossal Titan was the largest after transformation, the energy released by the transformer was also the largest during the process. Therefore, one of the strategic attributes of the Colossal Titan is to be used as a small human nuclear bomb. With a roar like a giant beast, he turned into a dazzling blue ball of lightning, and then the lightning exploded, submerging everything in a terrifying energy explosion. Chu Zhou and the rest watched the terrifying blue energy current in the lake explode out of the water and hurriedly moved away from the lake to avoid being accidentally injured. A large amount of water vapor rose, and the raging blue lightning stopped only after half of the lake water evaporated. Chu Zhou and the rest vaguely saw a huge figure flash by in the mist, but soon the huge black shadow disappeared, which made them wonder if they had seen it wrong. Just as they were on guard, a naked Yi rushed ashore and asked Chu Zhou for some clothes. Chu Zhou took out a dark leather pants and a tank top from his space ring and threw it to Yi. Fully clothed, Chu Zhou asked Yi about the sudden explosion just now. Yi explained that it was that mysterious warrior. He actually carried a plasma bomb and died together with the demon vine. Plasma bomb? Isn't that a military contraband? What kind of person has access to that thing? And I feel that the explosion just now seems to be more powerful than a plasma bomb. Chu Zhou stated skeptically. Although many things seemed to be out of place after the mysterious warrior appeared, and everyone did not have much time to think about these things, Chu Zhou, on the other hand, was as rational as ever, pointing out that the massive lightning and the giant in the smoke didn't seem like a plasma bomb. He kept insisting that it was a plasma bomb, and Chu Zhou saw wrong. He was relieved when Chu Zhou nodded and tactfully didn't delve into the matter further. Everyone has their own secrets, including himself and Yi. Also, it would be bad if Chu Zhou learns of his monster template abilities. He was already a little heavy-handed, and Huolong was crushed by him. He lost the corpse, but fortunately, he got the magic core of the ghost demon vine. Anyway, after they had just escaped death, Huang Yuli and her two teammates were very tired and had already planned to leave that secret place. She apologized to Yi for not only following them for nothing, but also troubled him to save them. They will compensate him when he leaves the secret realm. He told her not to be so polite. He will just consider this trouble as repaying the favor she did for him. However, if she gives him any compensation regardless, then won't he always owe her a favor? Huang Yuli smiled heartily and said no more about the matter. She waved goodbye to Yi and left with her two teammates. In the next 2 days, Yi and Chu Zhou continued to explore the secret realm. With the powerful perception of the life magnetic field, Yi and Chu Zhou found many spiritual medicines. Although they did not find any magical and rare spiritual medicines like the blood jade fruit, it was still a fruitful harvest. By the 3rd day, Yi and Chu Zhou felt that they had reaped enough harvest and was ready to leave the Redwood Mountains secret realm. In the end, the spoils that the two of them had found were divided, with Yi taking the lion's share. After the two came out of the rift of the secret realm, they were slightly shocked to see the current appearance of Mangrove Mountain. The Redwood Mountain, which was once a barren mountain, has been completely transformed. All the trees and boulders on the entire mountain were razed to the ground and replaced with a steel jungle made of concrete and steel bars, which housed a hospital, an auction, an arsenal, and even a hot spring hotel. Even a temporary airport was built far away from the Red Tree Mountain. When night falls, the bustling lights of the entire Mangrove Mountain can probably be seen in the atmosphere. Xia country's infrastructure capabilities were truly terrifying. He and Chu Zhou couldn't help but admire this incredible development. Anyway, a while later, Yi went to the Secret Realm Appraisal Office, prepared to appraise his harvest this time, and handed over 1/10 of the harvest as tax. He summoned a large sack from his space ring and threw it on the table. Seeing Yi's rough movements, the staff immediately reprimanded him. If anything inside the office is damaged because of him, it will not benefit him in any way. He scratched the back of his head and apologized. He had too many things in his hands. And if he didn't take them out quickly, he's afraid she won't be able to finish the appraisal before noon. The staff simply told Yi to rest assured. Every person in there was a professional. Hearing this, Yi took out another large sack from the space ring and placed it on the ground with care. Then came the 3rd sack, the 4th sack, the 5th sack. The lady looked as pale as death when Yi kept pulling sack after sack like he freaking owned the Redwood secret realm. Was he moving goods? For about 3 minutes, she finally couldn't help it and asked Yi if he was done. She breathed a sigh of relief when Yi replied that he was, but then he added that he was done moving the sacks. But there were still a lot of spiritual medicines left to take out. When the lady heard this, she quickly moved Yi to the Spiritual Medicine Appraisal Center. This was because the identification process of spiritual medicine was much more complicated and time-consuming than that of magic cores. It seemed she and the rest of the staff would have to work overtime today. The staff were stunned when they saw the magical medicine spread all over a table. Was Yi from the wholesale market? When did rare elixirs become as plentiful as cabbages? In order to identify the spiritual medicine that Yi brought out, all the appraisers in the entire appraisal institute halted their work and made the identification of Yi's spiritual medicine a priority. Anyway, while the appraisal institute marveled at the rarity of some magical medicines, He just stared with an expression of indifference. Now that the green and white quality magic cores had no effect on him, he can exchange them all for money. And as for the 5 blue magic cores of 3rd level monsters he collected when fighting the Beast Tide, and the green magic core with gold patterns that exploded from the 2nd level king level ghost vine, he wanted to keep them for himself. After coming out of the magic core recycling station, he had more than 27 million Xia country currency deposited into his bank card. Although his account now had a long string of zeros behind a number, he no longer had his previous joy. Maybe it was because there was so much money that it was just a string of numbers, or maybe it was because Ihi's vision had broadened. He felt that such a large number was not as beneficial as being able to improve the degree of his template compatibility by 10%. Just as Ihi was about to pick up the elixir stored at the appraisal center, an extended luxury business car stopped beside him, and a friendly middle-aged man got out of the car and greeted him with a warm smile. He introduced himself as Li Yutian, the owner of Pingy Pharmacy. He heard that Ihi got a large number of spiritual medicines from the secret realm of Redwood Mountain, and was wondering if he was willing to sell them to him. Li Yutian was willing to buy them at a price 1 point higher than the market price. He just stared silently. As expected, he thought, personal information was not confidential. It seems that his information had been leaked by those old foxes in the identification center. But it didn't matter. It just so happens that he needed to sell this batch of spiritual medicines anyway. Then someone suddenly comes along willing to do business with him. This definitely spares him the trip of running around for potential buyers. The deal went smoothly, and as the owner of Pingy Pharmacy was leaving, he happily handed over a contract. Those who didn't know would have thought that it was him, the pharmacy owner, who was begging for purchase. Of course, this was indeed the case. The reason why Li Yutian was willing to suffer a loss and give profits to Ihi was because of the young man's talent in finding a large number of elixirs in one raid. As a businessman, Li Yutian keenly sensed that Ihi was exceptional. He wanted to take this opportunity to establish a long-term relationship with Ihi, and perhaps he would be able to purchase rare and large quantities of goods from him in the future. With a large sum of money added to the bank card, Ihi also faced a new difficulty. All this money still couldn't compare to improving 10% of his personal strength. The genetic potions generally available on the market, and the white magic and green magic cores also give almost no improvement. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. It turned out that the template had a picky appetite, more so than himself, the host. Ihi wanted to get a higher-level genetic medicine, but unfortunately that kind of thing was subject to purchase restrictions, and his current status did not even allow him to have the privilege to purchase it. If Ihi wants to improve the degree of compatibility, he must get another rare treasure like the blood jade fruit, but that kind of thing was in short supply and there was no place to spend money even if he wants to buy it. But suddenly, his eyes lit up when a realization occurred to him. There was another way to improve his strength. And this was none other than martial arts techniques. In the college entrance examination, he was able to defeat Lu Qingzhu and the others, relying entirely on the powerful abilities of Demora's template. However, in terms of martial arts, he was no match for those martial arts masters. He only had the upper hand because of the powerful bloodline abilities. After realizing this, Ihi thought of the only person he knew who had the best social connections around and could help him obtain advanced martial arts, Principal Lao Deng. With this realization, he immediately bolted in the direction of An City's number 1 middle school. At the principal's office, Principal Lao Deng poured Ihi a cup of hot tea, massaged his shoulders, and stated that he didn't expect his champion to still come back to visit his alma mater. With his experience, this old fucker naturally saw that Ihi had something to ask for. He happily took out a bottle of white wine, in which was soaked a rare ginseng elixir. This was the medicinal wine he had just obtained from Li Yutian, the boss of Pingy Pharmacy. According to him, no middle-aged person could refuse this bottle of treasure that could invigorate blood circulation, strengthen his yang, and maintain health. When the principal saw this, his eyes lit up like stars. It seems our top scorer was indeed a good student who is not only good in character and academics, but also respect his elders as well. He told the principal that it was his duty to honor his elders. That was the reason for his gift, a fine traditional virtue of their Xia country. The principal said no more as he handed his gift over. The moment he did, he knew it was his opportunity to speak frankly. He asked the principal if he had any connections. He wants to learn martial arts. Although there are a large number of martial arts circulating on the market, most of them were of varying quality, and high-end martial arts were extremely rare. There are only 2 ways for a warrior to obtain more powerful martial arts. First, within the university, students of the school can redeem it through contribution points. The second type is the martial arts passed down within the warrior family, such as the Lu family's secret techniques, which was a martial art that only the core members of the family or outsiders who have made special contributions to the family can learn. This is why Lu Qingzhu, Chu Zhou and even Yi He, the top scorer, had been stuck at the peak of martial arts apprentices and had not been promoted to warriors. It obviously couldn't be because of lack of talent. And it wasn't because of lack of physical foundation either. After all, in terms of physique alone, these 3 top-notch martial art apprentices were better than many martial artists. This is because all the training methods for martial artists to become warriors can only be learned in college. The country does not allow civilians to control the methods of promotion to martial artists. Only college students can become real warriors. Now, Yi He wants to rely on Principal Lao Deng, a well-known person in An City's education circle, to help him find a way out. Curious, the principal asked why Yi He doesn't want to wait until he gets into a university to learn martial arts. He was too impatient. He already applied to Huadu University, which he was 100% certain to get accepted. He gave the principal his most sincere signature move and stated that he really wants to improve. Seeing those dazzling eyes, the principal reluctantly agreed to help Yi He with this matter. After all, he had a special talent, and his future achievements would definitely be higher than his own. And as educators, they must teach students according to their aptitude and not be fixated with a dead end. He, the sly fucker, even edged the principal on, adding that the rules were dead and not meant for people like them. It was a blessing for the education industry to have educators like Principal Lao Deng who understood change. Hearing all this praise, the principal was in cloud 9. The next day at noon, Yi He, who had just exited the shower after training, received a call from the principal. The principal had arranged everything for him, so he just needed to head there now. He thanked the principal, but when he asked which martial arts family he had asked for, his eyes widened in absolute disbelief. Apparently, the Lu family was willing to teach him their family's secret techniques. This was wonderful but suspicious. How could the Lu family be willing to teach their family's secret techniques after Lu Qingzhu, the jewel in their family's crown, had been defeated by him in front of hundreds of thousands of spectators? Was the principal teaming up with the Lu family to cheat him? He had many doubts, but he decided to go anyway. The Lu family had a leased manor on the outskirts of An City as their family land. Meanwhile, a while later at the outskirts of An City, Lu Chengjie, a guy in a slick dark glasses and a leather jacket, leaned over and drove a black modified motorcycle which cost about 2 million yuan. Its engine was comparable to that of a supercar which released a buzzing sound on the entire street. Behind him was a blonde girl hugging his waist tightly, her hair blown behind her by the strong wind. Feeling an unprecedented stimulation, she hugged Lu Chengjie even tighter and praised him endlessly about how awesome he was. With the beautiful woman praising him, Lu Chengjie felt even more proud. But just when he was about to brag, a figure suddenly appeared almost directly beside him and easily freaked the shit out of him. This person turned out to be none other than Yi He, who advised Lu Chengjie to not be distracted when driving at high speed. If he drove in an unsafe manner and something terrible happens, his loved ones will be the one in tears. He said this while pedaling his little yellow bicycle beside Lu Chengjie. Lu Chengjie felt insulted that a broke biker dared to compare himself to him. He twisted his motorcycle's handle tightly, and the steel beast under him roared furiously. In a flash, Lu Chengjie left Yi He behind and gave him the middle finger. No matter what Yi He's status was, he was not worthy of being on par with him. Again, the blonde girl behind him praised him for being so manly. Yi He just watched expressionlessly as they gradually widened the gap. Suddenly, the two heard a buzzing sound behind them, which even drowned out the sound of the motorcycle. A blue light streak appeared in the rearview mirror, and upon closer inspection, it was Yi He riding his bicycle. He only activated the nuclear light combat body mode in his legs, and the blue light like a rocket's tail flame pushed him past by the two in a flash. Lu Chengjie, like his girlfriend, stared with an embarrassed expression, wondering when a shared bicycle became so fast. It was even faster than a freaking airplane. He arrived at the entrance of Lu's manor, and as he stared at the castle-like building, he wasn't surprised, although he did admit the place looked magnificent. The setting of the entire Lu family manor was centered on the Lu family castle, with various garden landscapes built in circles around it. The manor employs professional gardeners to trim the green plants into various shapes, mainly animals, and there are also various bronze sculptures and park fountains that complement each other, adding a lot of beauty to the empty manor. The Lu family castle itself was much more solemn and dignified, with towering stone walls and spires, combined with an old-fashioned architectural style with a strong historical heritage, making anyone feel intimidated when standing in front of the castle. This was as expected of a wealthy martial arts family. They were completely different from a nouveau riche like him. Yi He then activated his life magnetic field to detect any powerful being in the Lu family manor. When he did, he found several of them. At that moment, from a distance, he saw a graceful figure in a white dress approaching the gate of the manor. It was Lu Qingzhu, Lu Qingzhu had her cold demeanor to hide her nervousness when she welcomed her classmate. Seeing this, he asked if she was unhappy to see him. Lu Qingzhu lowered her head and replied that that wasn't the case. "Then that means you're happy to see me?" He was amused. He never thought that the young miss was so fun to tease. Lu Qingzhu, with a flushed face, explained that her mother asked her to greet and welcome him. Lu Qingzhu did not dare to look up at he and walked quickly in front to lead the way. He didn't plan to tease her anymore. He just followed her quietly and admired the scenery of Lu's manor. At the manor main door stood two maids with impeccable etiquette and dress. After they bowed to Lu Qingzhu, they opened the door for them. Stepping on the expensive high-end carpet, he walked into a spacious hall with exquisite and grand decoration. The high ceiling and huge arched windows made the whole space look bright and luxurious. On the wall opposite the gate were self-portraits of successive heads of the Lu family, showing the Lu family's heritage and confidence, and displaying the glory and brilliance of successive heads of the family to outsiders. Lu Qingzhu raised her head and announced to her mother that he had arrived. The crisp sound of high heels clicking on the floor was heard. He looked up and saw a beautiful woman with mature charm, dignity and grace slowly walking down the stairs. The beauty of Lu Qingzhu's mother has not faded with the passage of time. Instead, like aged red wine, her temperament has become more fragrant and charming. He held his breath and shouted Prime Minister Cao Cao's name in his heart, stating that he finally understands. Back on the day the college entrance examination ended, at the Lu family's manor, Lu Qingzhu returned home, thinking she would be scolded by her strict mother. She was prepared to accept the punishment. But unexpectedly, her mother just called her to the manor's study over a cup of tea immediately after arrival. Qin Lan personally brewed a cup of tea for her daughter. Her every move was impeccable in etiquette. Lu Qingzhu, nervous as hell, was about to apologize, but her mother cut her off with a raised hand, revealing a lazy and elegant temperament. She told her daughter that there was no need for her to be nervous. She watched the live broadcast of the battle between her and the boy named Yi, and she performed very well. Yi's strength was such that even if he was in the Imperial Capital College entrance examination, he would still be a dark horse. She doesn't have to blame herself. Lu Qingzhu remained silent. She just lowered her head and didn't even take a seat or take a sip of the tea place in front of her. Qin Lan let her daughter be, but continued after a brief pause. "In your generation, you are the only one who can shoulder the heavy responsibility of the Lu family. Your younger brother's ability is limited and he cannot inherit the Lu family. But you are a girl after all, and you are so beautiful." Qin Lan raised Lu Qingzhu's beautiful face. "Your father passed away early, and now our Lu family has no master to back us up. So our family power has no choice but to retreat to this small city of Anqing. If a big family asks for a marriage alliance with you, we have no right to refuse. This also means that the Lu family will be annexed, and the century-old foundation will be handed over to others. He seems like a very good boy, with outstanding talent, a simple family background, and a bright future. From what I have observed, he is definitely not an ambitious person. I want to pair the two of you together. What do you think?" Lu Qingzhu's eyes widened at the thought of this, and her mother looked directly into her eyes with her aggressive phoenix eyes. But before Lu Qingzhu could say anything, Qin Lan added that she didn't have to answer now, but should just try to get along with Yi first. Back to the present, Qin Lan walked down the stairs and officially welcomed Yi to the Lu family. He greeted politely with a serious expression, trying hard to suppress the wayward thoughts that emerged in his mind. He presented a gift, but Qin Lan just stared expressionlessly. "I heard from Principal Lao Deng that you want to learn some advanced martial arts." He replied that she was correct. Without hesitation, Qin Lan added that her daughter will show him the way. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect Qin Lan to be so generous. Qin Lan walked down the remaining stairs, took the gift but didn't even bother to look or know what it was. She simply stated that her daughter will take Yi to the Lu family's martial arts pavilion. Since the martial arts in the pavilion were not allowed to be taken out, he will only have one day to study inside. There were 3 sets of Shenhuang martial arts deep in the martial arts pavilion. Whether Yi can learn them depends on his ability. When Yi heard that he could also learn Shenhuang martial arts, he was once again surprised. He thought that learning some slightly more advanced martial arts would be enough, but he didn't expect Qin Lan to give him the right to learn the Shenhuang martial arts. He didn't know whether to say that Principal Lao Deng had a lot of face, or that Qin Lan was too generous, or was investing in him. After all, there are so many benefits, it can't be without reason. Nonetheless, the cake was already in front of him, and he couldn't refuse to eat it. Even if there was a knife hidden in the cake, he had to lick the cream clean first. "Got it, madam." Then he would like to thank the Lu family. He thanked the Lu family instead of Qin Lan herself. The meaning of this could be very different. It meant that Yi had made a promise to the Lu family. If the Lu family needs him in the future, he will fulfill his promise. Qinlan was very satisfied with Yi's clever answer, and the more she looked at Yi, the more she liked him. Yi, on the other hand, saw the way Qinlan suddenly looked at him and felt like he'd done something wrong. After saying goodbye to Qinlan, Lu Qingzhu took Yi out of the manor to a very long corridor to the martial arts pavilion. On the way, the two were alone together again, and Lu Qingzhu couldn't help but remember the subtle look her mother gave her. He, completely oblivious to this, discovered that Lu Qingzhu seemed to have become even more shy. Lu Qingzhu, why do I feel like you're trying to avoid me? Lu Qingzhu denies this, but when he suddenly walked quickly to her side and met her eyes, Lu Qingzhu panicked like a frightened deer and hurriedly took a half step back. You see, Lu Qingzhu had never been so close to a boy before, but in that brief moment, she could even feel his warm breath on her right cheek, which made her lovely face suddenly heats up, carrying no trace of the coldness of the flower on the mountain top that she once was. She asked why he was getting so close. He followed Lu Qingzhu and came to an underground stone chamber. In front of them was an ancient, thick, and rough surface of a large stone door. He could feel that the material of these stones was definitely not ordinary. Seeing Yi's curiosity, Lu Qingzhu took the initiative to explain. The stone door was made of the power transformation stone, a special stone excavated from the secret realm. It can dissolve the attack power of the Xuanwu master level without breaking. Of course, when Yi heard this, he asked whether he can punch it. Lu Qingzhu didn't expect Yi to say such a strange thing after hearing of the power transformation stone. Shouldn't Yi be marveling at the magic of this stone? The moment she told Yi he could try, he clenched his fists, and with every cell in his body violently generating atomic energy. The familiar dazzling blue light covered the fist. Seeing this, Lu Qingzhu's pretty face sank, recalling the horrible memories about that blue glowing punching technique, and simply turned her head away. With a reverberating boom, the fist tore through the air and slammed into the stone wall. The violent air wave blew Lu Qingzhu's white skirt to the side. Unexpectedly, the blue energy impact did not explode. Instead, it was completely absorbed by the stone wall and turned into ripples on the water, dissolving in circles, unscathed. He clearly felt his strongest and fiercest punch. But the moment it touched the stone wall, it was like punching the sea and sinking into a quagmire. More than 90% of the power was absorbed. It was rare to see he also experiencing moments of failure, and Lu Qingzhu found this funny. She covered the corners of her mouth, which had curled up subconsciously. She opened the stone wall, welcoming Yi inside. With brisk steps, Yi entered the Lu family's martial arts pavilion. All the martial arts inside were displayed in the form of copies on shelves. They looked like they were arranged in rows, which was dazzling and impressive. Lu Qingzhu explained that the martial arts inside were divided into body movement, defense, horizontal training, swordsmanship, and a lot more. If Yi wants to learn any of them, he should just use an ID card to access it. Lu Qingzhu handed Yi a black and gold card. He then asked of the Shenhuang martial arts. They were in the small stone chamber at the deepest part of the martial arts pavilion. She replied calmly. Also, he needs to swipe his card to enter. But you won't be able to comprehend the Shenhuang martial arts in just one day. You can only learn the basics at most, she continued, pointing a finger towards something else. I think that my mother giving you access to Shenhuang martial arts may not necessarily be good for you. I can pick out a few martial arts books for you that are second only to Shenhuang martial arts and suitable for you. Hearing this, he couldn't help teasing her again. Are you thinking for my sake? Due to this teasing session, Lu Qingzhu didn't want to talk to this classmate of hers anymore. He assured her not to worry her pretty little head. He knows what he wants. If he wants to learn something, he naturally has to learn the strongest one. So, if the Shenhuang martial arts were placed in front of him and he doesn't have the courage to learn it, then shouldn't he just go home and continue to work hard on the template compatibility? Moreover, Qinlan opened up the learning rights of Shenhuang martial arts for him, which was both an investment and a test. If he couldn't pass this level or didn't dare to take the risk, he would probably never have the chance to be invited to Lu's manor again. Seeing Yi's persistence, Lu Qingzhu said no more. You see, the secret room that stores Shenhuang martial arts was even more secure. So the kind of black-quality power-transforming stone of extremely rare was used. And in order to raise the materials for building this black power-transforming stone wall, Lu Qingzhu's great-grandfather's generation has been collecting them. Lu Qingzhu spoke more frequently, which was unusual. She obviously seemed to be very proud of the history of her family. The black stone door opened, and 3 safes appeared in front of Yi. Each safe was strong enough to withstand tank bombardment. Once the wrong password was entered 5 times, the original copy of the Shenhuang martial arts inside would be automatically destroyed. He saw the names of two familiar martial arts, Floating Shadow and Hunyuan Jade Finger, which were exactly the two that Lu Qingzhu mastered. The name of the third Shenhuang martial art was the Devil in the Flesh, and he has never seen Lu Qingzhu use it. Lu Qingzhu explained that the way to learn Shenhuang martial arts was not to watch, but to feel the martial rhyme left by the creator. If he can't feel it, or his martial artist's attributes conflict with the martial rhyme, he can't start practicing her family's Shenhuang martial arts. In short, the Shenhuang martial arts were alive. And it was not the martial artist who chose the martial arts, but the martial arts that choose the martial artist. After Lu Qingzhu's explanation, he understood why Lu Qingzhu did not use the third Shenhuang martial art in the college entrance examination. It wasn't a talent problem, but a conflict of attributes. How can a beautiful girl like Lu Qingzhu be compatible with the rough martial arts called the Devil in the Flesh? But he, on the other hand, was very suitable for this direct and violent Shenhuang martial arts. He chose the Devil in the Flesh. Lu Qingzhu cracked the code for him, and the safe opened, revealing a bronze statue of a muscular and ferocious man. The whole statue was lifelike, and every muscle was vivid. He discovered that in the gaps between the statue's muscles, there were evil ghosts wailing and crying. This statue of a virile man who was supposed to suppress ghosts displayed the murderous aura to the fullest. After the statue appeared, he seemed to hear the wailing of evil ghosts. The Shenhuang martial arts was not a book, but a statue? Not only statues, but also paintings. Basically anything can be the carrier of martial arts. This is the magic of the master.